Welcome to the Dire Wolf Show, where we believe that America is exceptional and that our constitutional rights should never be infringed. I am Dire Wolf. On our show, we bring you the truth and debunk fake news. If you love laughing at the insanity of the regressive left, sit back and relax. Boy, do I have a show for you. Welcome back, Wolfpack. Dire Wolf here for I have cancer. For our weekly news recap of Dehydrated Lines on YouTube, where speech is not free and the truth is demonetized. End quote. Repeat line.
Are we gonna elaborate on that or just keep moving on?
Nope. I'm sick with that. I just read what's on the teleprompter.
This just in, an official statement from Direwolf Media. Direwolf does not, in fact, have cancer. Direwolf Media rebuts Direwolf's claims.
Or more likely, what he said was the president does not have cancer, except for he had some not so serious cancer removed from his skin, which is still cancer. Alongside me is my cancer-free co-host, Fox Travis.
I am the cancer of Direwolf Media.
Yes. But your cancer doesn't have cancer, so it's all right.
That's good. That's good.
As always, we have a great show for you tonight, I hope. But first, we have to thank our sponsors. This show is only made possible by viewers like you. We would especially like to thank those who donate to us financially, including Kaylet, Ori Main, Nathan Cameron, Tetris Freak, Slowpoke, Thunder Erican, who is female, the White Lion, who is a lion, Timberwolf, who is a wolf, and the White Wolf, also a wolf. Also Adder Lupus. Money isn't the only way you can give, though. We also appreciate you liking, subscribing us on DLive, Twitch, YouTube, and Rumble. Especially please follow us on Rumble, because YouTube is not guaranteed. So thank you very much. Let's get into our first funny comment.
Alrighty. So, opening here. So we got the people of, or a couple in California. They had some interesting ideas given the current crime waves in California. So they decided to leave a bicycle on their yard, which was presumably just brown ash, given the water shortages. They left a bike in their yard to lure thieves, possibly bandits. And then they beat the would-be thieves with bats and posted the videos to YouTube.
Not all heroes wear capes.
Are we allowed to play this video?
Yes.
The woman in the story is an active duty sailor in the Navy. The neighborhood had been routinely victimized by thieves, so they decided to do something about it. Initially, they were praised by their community for taking out the criminals.
Let's changed, though. Now they're in jail.
Oh, really?
With a deadly weapon after Visalia police say they lured people onto their property to steal an unsecured bike and then beat them with baseball bats. Our Medeiros Bab is live in front of the house where the incident reportedly took place in Medeiros. What are police saying tonight? And you also got a chance to speak to a neighbor as well.
That's right, Alexon. Police telling me that the incidents happened right here behind me. A neighbor saying that the couple no
want to point out that the lawn is in fact brown ash.
longer lives here because they wanted to move to Lemoore on the naval base. I did confirm with the Navy that the woman that was arrested is a sailor assigned to Lemoore.
So here we have the bicycle left unattended.
Visalia Police Sergeant Celeste Sanchez playing surveillance video showing a man taking a bike left on the driveway of a home on Dove Street.
I was gotten on the bike.
Why would you do that?
Moments later, Sanchez says,
guys. Also, it sounded like you said, not all heroes wear cakes to me.
They also...
That's true.
It is true that they do not all wear cakes. Thank you so much for the $10, Adder Lupus. Much appreciated. We're doing pretty good today.
Yeah.
I was a little...
I'd say so.
A little sleepy, but I'm going to bring high energy for you guys.
Exactly. I'd say that very few heroes wear cakes, but some might. So I can rule it out.
Dyer does wear a cake. It's very weird and messy. Let's continue.
Yes.
29-year-old Savannah Grillett and 25-year-old Corey Cornett run out of the home with bats in their hand, assaulting the thief.
Armed with bats. They were beaten with bats and severely injured.
Good.
Officers say the couple planted the bike as a decoy several times throughout July to November. If someone took the bait, they would film the entire thing to post onto YouTube and Facebook.
I was surprised nobody reported it sooner, because it was almost every night for a minute.
Neighbor Karis LeBeau says at first the neighborhood supported the couple, even thanking them for keeping thieves off the street. But the support quickly diminished once people were seriously injured.
I'm not for...
What's wild, too, is it actually looks like a pretty decent neighborhood. Like, that's, like, definitely the burbs. Like, that looks like a nice neighborhood, and they just have, like, people stealing stuff off of...
Like every night they have, it's not just this bicycle. Like these guys were going around and terrorizing the community, and they're like, we've had enough. We're going to make them pay, because the police will do nothing. The thing is, in California, the police are completely worthless. They're completely demoralized. They're more likely to oppress you than defend you or stop you from being victimized by criminals. The criminals, when arrested, are released immediately. So this is what happens when the government doesn't protect the people. The people are going to start feeling like they have to protect themselves and protect their property themselves. Now, I think that it would have been completely justified for each time someone came up to steal that bicycle, they got shot dead. And before you say, oh, you think that bicycle, that property is more important than their lives, I'd say no, they think that bicycle is more important than their lives because they're willing to steal it. And if they start getting hit with bats and getting shot when they tried stealing someone's property, people would be less inclined to do it.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that this happened so many nights in a row for several months in a row. You would have thought that word would have got around the criminal community. Hey, by the way, this neighborhood is off limits.
Yep.
Also, I mean, okay, so like they're quote unquote entrapping, they're luring them in. Okay, well, I mean, it's not that much different than the FBI completely planning, funding, and recruiting for the kidnapping of Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer just to entrap some people who live in their parents' basement.
Actually, it's very different because these guys didn't convince someone to steal their bicycle, give them the tools which to steal their bicycle.
Yeah,
tell them where the bicycle was
for 5 months. Yeah,
didn't do all the work for them and then drive them to the bicycle to steal it and then beat them with bats after he touches it.
Yeah, I gotta agree too. It's luring is very. I guess it's more about the intent behind it. Yes, their intent was to lure, but the action that they used to lure them is rather benign. I mean, you got kids dying. I'm sure you've had a few bicycles left outside your house, overnight. I've definitely left my bike out front of my house while I went inside to go do something or run around back to go find something in my garage. Left it outside for a few hours. Yeah, it's a thing that happens. Maybe not the best idea, but this is America. You should feel comfortable in your own community. And it's unfortunate that a lot of people can't.
So I was in California when I was growing up for a good number of years, and my bicycle got stolen from in front of my house. And the next day or the day after, my mom in her minivan saw some other kid riding my bicycle and then drove after him in the van until he ditched it. Just driving after this kid.
Having talked to your mom once, I believe that.
She got her bicycle back though.
You're the best, Mrs. Direwolf.
She raised me, so she obviously did something wrong.
Yeah, she obviously insane.
Anyways,
that's good. That's what mom should do. If your kid stole something from your kid, you need to run that person down till they give it back.
Exactly. So this happened because of the lack of action by the government. You encourage vigilantism when the government fails to do its job and its only job of securing and protecting the people.
Well, it's anarchy. I mean, it's the anarcho-tyranny, right? So the anarchy part of anarcho-tyranny is that you are pretty much on your own for regular laws and infractions and criminal activity. You're just on your own. If you happen to do something political, then the tyranny kicks in. But the problem with anarchy is that there's a lot of ways to deal with certain things, and as a society, maybe not all of those ways are optimal with the type of collateral damage that it might produce. And so under non-anarchy, we've decided, okay, we're going to have a democratic republic. We're going to have representatives of the people, and we're going to discuss, debate, and vote on the established methods for handling criminal activity. Yes, there's a lot of ways to handle it, but we're going to vote on and legislate a few specific ways that we agree is good for society to handle it in a certain way, in a way that's maybe safe, in a way that maybe doesn't involve your mom running down some kid with a minivan, or involve the sailor beating somebody up with a baseball bat. But when the Democrats decide, well, we're going to live under anarcho-tyranny, we are just going to, leave the people to their own devices to suffer under the criminal regimes, and then we're going to prosecute them and send them to federal prison for being at a political rally, well, then all of a sudden, you now have to take the law into your own hands. You now have to deal with criminal activity in the way that you see fit. And maybe the way that you see fit to do is, or maybe even just the way that you're capable of doing it, is by using a baseball bat or a minivan, even though society says, well, maybe that's not the best way to handle that. Well, once the government stops enforcing the law, when civil services are not being given out equally, well, society no longer has a choice in how those criminal matters are handled, because they have to be handled. The solution is not just to be a victim. Somebody has to handle them. And if the government is not going to handle it in the way that everybody has agreed is safe, well, then don't complain that much when people take it into their own hands and solve it in the way that they think is best, even if it's maybe not as safe for society.
Yep. And this is exactly why so many people are leaving California right now, because they're going to states where they feel like they have the right to defend themselves. And in California, you don't. If you shoot someone who has broken into your home, unless you can prove by them like showing the knife in your stomach, and it has to be pretty deep for the prove that they really were going to kill you, you have the duty to retreat. You don't have the right to defend yourself. Your property in California is their life, the life of the criminal, is more valuable than your property. Thus, they should not be stopped from stealing your property. And they also won't be held accountable in the courts either. So basically, you have no right to property in California.
The best thing that you can do if you're in a home invasion situation, whether you're in a castle state or not, is to either call 911 or start your phone recording if you have the time and presence of mind to do so, and then make sure that you just continue to shout, you're scaring me, as you mag dump the person. And then while you're reloading, you can say, stop moving, you're scaring me. And once you finish your reload, you can say, you're scaring me, and mag dump him again. And that's actually serious advice. That has been the advice for us 2A advocates for a while now. That's becoming the new idea, is that if there's a recording of you explaining that you're scared and the person clearly continuing to scare you, continuing to present a threat, that has been shown to be good evidence in a court case, is those recordings. So make sure that you just keep yelling that you're scaring me. And if you're scared of a just, pulp of what used to be a human in front of you after you've mag dumped them 3 times, just keep telling them, keep letting them know that they're scaring you.
I mean, you don't want those bullets going to waste, right? You got to use them before they expire.
Exactly.
So make sure they are used on the guy who will expire, or girl.
Yes.
We're all inclusive here.
Exactly.
Whatever you identify as.
Right. Just make sure that you continuously reiterate that they are scaring you.
Exactly.
Because if you're not scared, it's hard to explain to a jury why you shot them.
Your arterial bleeding is scaring the fuck out of me. Boom, boom.
It is scary. I don't like. The only thing worse than that is bugs. All right. At the girls at my work the other day, there was we have a bug problem at work, and there was what they thought may have been a cockroach, and they're like, "Oh, come over here, Fox. Can you get this for us?" I'm like, I'll call me if you need your printer fixed, but I'm not fucking killing a cockroach. I gotta go to lunch.
Hilarious.
I was like, I don't got my carry on me right now, so I don't really know how I would handle that.
Should have mag dumped the cockroach.
Yeah, just pull out my 9 and just blast a cockroach. Be like, what?
You asked for help. I get help. What do you want from me? All right, let's move on to our next story.
Alrighty. Let's see here. So I think I was going to write a bit for this, but I didn't. We're just going to jump right into it. I think we talked about this before. We might have even shown a video for it, but we're going to do it again because I don't remember if we did or not. Joe Biden, noted biking enthusiast, was once again on the trail, found some fellow bikers, cyclists, as we like to be called, and here's a video of what transpired. This was the week after he fell off of his bike. It's a little it looks to be maybe a 12-year-old girl there, maybe. Oh no, no.
The sniffer in chief. Hey, do you know that someone added to Google Maps at the location where he fell off his bicycle, Biden Falls?
That's awesome.
It later got removed, but for a while that location was marked as Biden Falls. Oh, sorry, Brandon Falls. Sorry, Brandon Falls.
Damn. That's nice. So this would have been a little bit before he probably would have contracted COVID, so there's no way of knowing how he got COVID. Just no way of knowing. All right, which we will talk about later. So our first real story for the day is climate change. Bum, bum, bum.
All right, so CNN leadership has recently determined from several reports that their next narrative that they're going to use to be like the through line through all their news coverage, that it's going to be climate change. Everything is going to be being related back to climate change. That's their new way of keeping people afraid and keeping people tuned in. Climate change.
And I'm sure just like Russiagate for the last 7 years, linking everything to something that was completely made up and fictitious, I'm sure that changing all of that to climate change, I'm sure that's not going to have the exact same effect.
So what CNN is doing here is partially ideological.
How dare you?
Why would you do that?
I can just imagine Dyer speaking in total deadpan as he fires rounds. Oh no, I am scared. You are scaring me. Oh no, stop. I can't even. It's so scary. Stop moving. Scary. So scared. His dogs eat the bodies. Then he crushes a doorknob.
That is exactly how that would happen, and I like that the robot voice read it in the exact manner in which he meant to have it spoken. Thank you so much for the $10, Triumvirate. Dyer will, I'm sure, not use that to increase the security of his household.
That's great. Who said that?
Triumvirate.
Thanks, Triumvirate. That's funny. Wow. So not only for ideological reasons, but also because they have to come up with a way of keeping people watching. So that's how they make them.
People gotta stay scared, right? Too.
Yeah, people gotta stay scared for them to watch, because not because they watch them for the truth, it's because they watch them for telling them what they want to hear and also keeping them scared. But anything they pick, they have to also stay on the right side of the political party they're trying to keep in power, right? So they want something the Democrats will not disagree with, but also will keep people afraid and meet both of those needs of the company and the ideology. And this is one that meets both needs. So in 2019, 11,000 scientists signed a letter saying that the global government should halt population growth to stop climate change. These are all data points in line with the current left-wing strategy. The current left-wing goal for battling climate change is to reduce global population. They want to lower birth rates.
Kind of like the Georgia Guidestones that just got blown up.
Yeah, well, that was what the Guidestones suggested, a much smaller population actually than we currently have. But so CNN recently, because they're shifting their reporting to climate change, they've had several articles and commentators talking about the need for population control to fight climate change. And this is actually talked about a lot more in the UK, and that's one reason I think it's kind of funny that they talk about things that they need to do away with or never and not do because of climate change. One of them is we can't get ACs in houses. That's indulgent, self-indulgent. That's a luxury. It's unnecessary that we shouldn't give ourselves. And it's bad for the climate. It would require more energy usage. But I think it's funny because they lose every season, every hot season. They lose thousands of people to not having like their houses keep heat in.
What's wild too is so like UK is typically cooler and rainier and cold in the winter, and so yes, they are a country designed around the cold. However, it also gets warm there. They're at a similar latitude to like Ohio, which gets up to like it's like 95 degrees in Ohio this week. I mean, so it's not that crazy that they would be facing heat waves. Also, that's not crazy that they'd be facing heat waves because pretty much every summer for the last like 20 years there has been major news stories about how hot it is in the UK. Oh man,
yeah,
that's crazy. And what you were talking about with the oh sorry, go ahead.
But it's their homes that make it worse. So it might be manageable outside, but inside their homes are like 10, 15 degrees even hotter than the outside because they're meant to keep the heat in, and they don't have a AC to push the hot air out.
Here's what's wild with what they could do with their ACs. So there's not even really new technology. It's just been more recently popularized is mini splits or heat pumps. And the thing about heat pumps is you can run them. It's just a regular air conditioned loop system. However, you can run it backwards and get heat out of it. So you could use it for a heater in the winter, and you could use it for an air condition in the summer with the exact same device. And when it comes to heat, a lot of the UK, so like in the US, you'll probably have electric heat if you're in the southern half of the United States, and if you're in the northern half, you're probably using natural gas, which is probably piped to your house through a city distribution network. In the UK, they don't really have that. They have these weird like oil drums in their backyard, and they run their heaters off of like oil that was delivered by truck because you know what's really environmentally friendly and not prone to disaster at all is trucking heating oil to every house in the country and just having it on the highway where it could crash and just dump oil everywhere rather than just having it piped through pipes in the ground in a safe place. But so the thing what's interesting about these heat pumps is they're actually more efficient per unit of electricity by like several orders of magnitude than what something like that's burning either natural gas or heating oil or even just electric radiative heat. It's much more efficient to use these heat pumps because of the way that the refrigerant works, which I don't want to go into a whole physics lesson, but basically you can get, if you put in like let's say you put in 1,000 watts of electricity into an electric heater, you're going to get 1,000 watts of heat out. If you put 1,000 watts worth of gas into your heater and burn it, you're going to get about 850 watts of heat back out of it. It's not perfect efficiency. However, if you put 1,000 watts of electricity into a heat pump, you could get something like 2,000 to 3,000 to 4,000 watts of heat out of it. It's actually really interesting technology if you guys want to go look it up on your own. But not only could the UK, by putting heat pump ACs into everybody's house, not only could they solve their problem in the summer, they could also reduce their energy consumption in the winter for more heating. And it's just absolute ludicrous green insanity that they just look at this technology and say, no, that's too indulgent, or no, that's going to cost more electricity because they don't understand the technology, or whatever their reasoning is. It's wrong.
So the irony is that they're saying that they don't want to change from their fossil fuel based system of the oil, right, that they're using to heat these homes. They don't want to move to electricity that could be done off of nuclear and could be done far more efficiently of water but using those systems you're referring to, a more fuel efficient AC unit that works off electricity. They could have a far greener system if that's what they wanted, but they're ignoring that. Instead, they're looking at the system they have now, and they're saying it is indulgent to create a system that would result in thousands of less people dying. You living is indulgent. So they're very dismissive of the loss of human life, and they're like, "Oh, it's just a luxury to not die," and it kind of goes along with their green goals of just trying to reduce the population. That's kind of how the UK is dealing with it. But they also, why it's important to bring up the UK, even though they're not the US, is because the Green New Deal type Democrats want us to make AC illegal. They want to make it so that we are like the UK, where they are okay with people dying because we don't have the ability to keep homes with people who are at risk at safer temperatures. And they'd rather you be suffering unnecessarily for the imagined reduction of carbon emissions, when in reality, if we do AC correctly, people can be more comfortable and produce less carbon if we're actually being realistic about it. But that's not what they want. They want suffering and they want genocide. They don't really want a green future.
Well, and again, we see the same thing with like wind turbines and solar, both of which are extremely old technologies. There's a lot of very interesting new energy technologies that are worth pursuing that are just as green, but don't have these kind of pretty posters that you can make for them, don't have these like fields that you can put into like an Obama style poster or something like that. You want to see Obama's big head in red and blue with a windmill behind him, right, on a campaign poster, but you don't want to see Obama in front of, say, like a fusion reactor or plasma arc gasifier or any number of other green technologies where you can extract energy from things, from waste products. But they don't look pretty, they don't roll off the tongue, and they're not easy to understand. Windmills and solar are really easy to understand because they're like thousands of years old technology. Obviously not photovoltaic solar electricity, but solar energy is well known and been well used throughout many thousands of years. And then wind, obviously we have, all over Europe, we have windmills all over the place. I mean, those are both very old, well understood technologies. And because the Democrats are small children who cannot understand concepts that require more than 2 sentences to explain it to them, they just completely ignore these technologies. Like I was just saying with heat pumps, it takes maybe 20-30 minutes of Googling and actually focusing on learning something, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh wow, this is like really compelling technology. It's why isn't everybody doing this? And you realize, oh, everybody's not doing it because most people don't have the attention span of 30 minutes to sit down and understand how it works. Politicians least of all, probably politicians second to least of all. Their lowest common denominator voters even least. So that's the issue, is that there are solutions out there, but the Democrats don't want those solutions. They want there to be a problem, because if there's a problem, then that means they get to have full control of society to solve that problem. And the problem that they're trying to solve isn't really climate change.
No.
The problem they're trying to solve is you.
Yeah, the thing is, they're saying that stopping climate change is the goal, and that the solution is, not going to call it this, but it's basically mass genocide.
Well, it's not necessarily a single solution, as it were. It's more of like a solution that's like the end all of solutions, a finale solution, an ending solution, a ultimate solution.
Yes,
final solution.
They say that the reason is the climate change, and the way to stop it is to reduce our food and reduce our population control and the changing of how we farm. Sounds nice, but when actually put in practice, results in the starving of millions and millions of people, and the suffering of many more. And as an example of this, the 11,000 scientists, in quotation, that signed this letter saying that global governments should halt population growth to stop climate change, they went in to explain how this would work. They said that most of the wealthy nations already have achieved mostly flat birth rates, and we'll explain how they've managed to do that. So the global efforts need to be focused on Africa and Asia. So they're saying, we want the Africans and Asians to not be allowed to have children, and a lot of them need to die. And they call us the racists.
I think Africa and Asia just need to be left the fuck alone. Let them develop their own. Let them either continue their thousands of years of tribal warfare or figure out the stuff on their own. I think we just need to leave them alone. And then it doesn't matter. The only reason why there's concern about Africa and Asia is because the elites desperately want to use them as slave labor to extract their resources from their lands.
Yeah, they want their resources. If you leave them to their own devices, they will manage their own population and develop whatever they need to do to survive.
Or they won't. And that's up to them. I'm a laissez-faire other cultures and civilizations. Let them.
That's a them problem.
Yeah, let them survive or not on their own. That's kind of their problem. We don't need to be sending them quadrillions of dollars of Monsanto corn every year, or rice that they can't eat. And one of the reasons why they have population problems over there and why they have starvation over there is because of foreign aid the last 50 years, where we give them all of this free stuff. And it's well, why would I be a farmer when I have to break even, sell my rice for $2, and the Americans are giving it away for free? Nobody wants to buy my rice. And then all of a sudden their farm collapses.
Yeah, well, also their farms collapsed because they killed their farmers. Because there was a bunch of white farmers from colonial expansion.
Africa's a very large place, and they've tried just about every way that they could to collapse their farms in every different part of it. So some parts of it they collapsed their farming industry by killing all the farmers. Some parts of it they collapsed their farming industry because the U.S. gave them free rice. Other parts they stopped using fertilizer. Other parts they used too much fertilizer, and then some parts they just they were worshiping the wrong gods, I guess, and then the rain dances didn't work. So
exactly. So
for them.
At some point they have to take some responsibility for their own mismanagement, and America can't provide for the entire world, because then our own people will starve. But again, maybe that's part of their goal. They want to keep our population small, because I think it's less about climate change and more about people on a power trip liking the idea that they can be the ones that survive while millions die.
Isn't it incredible that you can, through foreign aid, you can simultaneously be extracting resources from Americans to make sure that we aren't able to basically mobilize everyone into the middle and upper classes, just by extracting the tax dollars from the system. And at the same time, those tax dollars are being utilized in such a way that it actually makes Africa less self-sufficient.
Irony.
Irony, or by design. I don't know. That's awful. That's awful specific things to have been able to accomplish with that one policy.
Trampert has a funny comment. I'm sure it has context in all the rest of his comments, but he wrote, "The abolition of mankind." Yeah, that's kind of what they're going for.
It's like that Twilight Zone, to serve man.
Yeah. So we have Travis Reeder, who is a bioethicist, in quotations, at Johns Hopkins University. He had he has proposed and given speeches on the topic of population control to stop climate change, which has been a
first.
Yes, you stop populating yourself as well at first, and then we might follow suit after we watch what happens. If there's positive results from you no longer being here, then we'll consider it. So this is what being taught to college students nowadays. They're teaching our college students that you should not have children, that the population must be smaller because people are going to starve if we don't stop the population growth. And they were saying that when the global population was like 3.5 billion. And obviously that didn't happen. We're what, just shy of 8 billion right now, I think?
Yeah, we're hitting right up to 8 billion right now.
Right. So they proposed that we would be at critical levels of population that would result in mass starvation billions of population ago. And it didn't happen. You know why? Because as population increased, our technology and our capability increased.
It's the Methuselah
utilize more
collapse. Yeah, the Methuselah collapses. They've been predicted pretty much like about as regularly as the death cults predict the apocalypse. You have just about every decade, a couple of times, you have somebody saying like, "Oh, we're at peak whatever, we're at peak oil, we're at peak crop, we're at peak whatever, and this is the end. Like, there's not enough resources." Yet we always do have enough resources. Again, some places don't, but that has to do with self-sufficiency, not because the technology isn't there. It's you can have all the technology you want if you've got African nations deciding that, well, we're going to, just for racial reasons, slaughter our entire farming base. Like, well, I don't think it was because of global warming or because we ran out of corn or because we didn't have the technology to do it. I think it's just because your political policies suck.
Because they're racist.
And it actually is funny. Yeah, it actually is funny because, like I said, they've been talking about these Methuselah collapses for decades at this point, 60, 70 years at this point. I think the first one was in the 50s when they were predicting that. That's what was popularized the term. But who's had control of the world for most of that time? It's been as we just recently learned, the liberal world order has been maintaining, the world largely for the last 70 years after World War II. And still, based off what I just described, it's not for lack of resources, it's not for lack of technology, it's because of the policy. And what policy have we been living under for 70 years? It's the liberal world order. And it was a problem at the beginning of the liberal world order, and it's still a problem now. And it's a testament to the liberal world order having bad policies, not because we don't have enough technology, not because we don't have enough resources. If we are facing food crises or resource crises, it is because of policy. That's the only reason why.
If you look at the food shortages now, they're not due to population. They're completely due to government policies that stop farms from producing foods, increase the cost of transporting foods to market. And the government's policy restricting the food supply is not caused by population. Now, not every country's population and resources are the same. Japan actually does have a population it struggles to feed on with its own land because of has very restricted resources, very restricted land. However, it can export products and then buy food from countries that have lots of excess farmable land like the U.S. So we actually do have a way of balancing it so that their population is taken care of. In America, when our population gets bigger, what happens is we get more farmers, more farmland. When a farmer has more customers, he attempts to make more food, buy more land, plant more plants, raise more cows. We have lots of extra land to absorb a higher population. The more population we have, the more workers we can have to support that food supply.
And honestly, we should not be hearing a single thing on food shortages at all until every single drop of ethanol is eliminated from the gas pumps. We have right now, Joe just put out an executive order a few months ago to increase the amount of ethanol for all seasons, which I think is usually a winter season fuel blend, increase the amount of ethanol in all fuel blends without having to disclose that to the consumer, which if you don't know much about ethanol or don't really care, basically it just runs your engine a little bit harder unless you've got a flex fuel vehicle that's designed to handle it. Most people don't have that. In the wintertime, it's not as big of a deal because it's got some properties that make it better in cold temperatures. But what you're going to see now is everybody's got ethanol gumming up their engines. You're actually going to start seeing people pay a lot more for auto maintenance over the next couple of years because of what Joe Biden's doing. But beyond that, why are we talking about food shortages when Joe Biden just ordered like thousands, hundreds of thousands of hectares of corn to be turned into gasoline. It's so stupid. At the same time, we're also facing a gas shortage, so it doesn't even really help that much. There's a lot of this is another example of interesting technologies that we don't use because the Democrats or even the Republicans are not profiting off of it, or it's too difficult for the average consumer to understand. There's actually a weed called switchgrass, which has been shown to be much better to use for ethanol production. So we don't even actually have to use the corn. Switchgrass can grow with almost no water. It doesn't require a lot of nutrients out of the soil, so you can put it in depleted fields. You can harvest it 3 times a season for every 1 time that you can harvest corn. So it grows really fast, and its yield of ethanol is much, much more than corn. And you also can't eat switchgrass. So it's not like it's doing anything else other than just turning into ethanol. But we don't use switchgrass for ethanol. We use corn for ethanol. Why? Well, because Monsanto, which is now Bayer, and Iowa. Why is Iowa the first place that the primaries are always held? Because Iowa has corn, and all of the candidates for president want to make sure that they can tell Iowans that we're going to give you the most subsidies you've ever had for your corn. And we're also going to, on the back end, buy all of your corn and turn it into ethanol so that you can basically just do the bare minimum of farming. None of your food's going to actually go into the mouths of anybody. And you don't care because you're just going to keep getting all of this government cash from the people of the other 49 states. So we have this, and that's all policy. All of it's policy. I just described a bunch of technological ways that we could accomplish this, both solving the fuel crisis and also solving world hunger, but we won't do it because of policy. And whose policy is it? Well, it's the liberal world order, it's the uniparty, it's the authoritarians in charge of us right now. And they don't want the solution, they want the problem, because the problem they're trying to solve is you.
Yes, and getting back to this bioethicist, Travis Reeder, and how they're teaching our students, he said that, so it's in his name, he's a bioethicist. It seems entirely unethical and unhuman to wish to deprive a person of their basic human freedom to engage in the pivotal human experience of having children and raising them and being responsible for a child and the ability to pass on your physical and intellectual experience of the future, pass on your genes, pass on what you know into the future. Having the choice to do that is a very human thing, part of the human experience to be able to do that, and depriving them of that is insane and an inhuman proposition. I would say not ethical. The ability to pass on your knowledge and experiences is the only true way you can, your memory can survive into the future, other than being, written into history books, which are no guarantee to survive either. It seems unethical to choose to cut off a person's family line for the sake of government policy.
I mean, you might think it's unethical to cut off someone's family lineage, but how unethical would it be to stop the corn subsidies to Monsanto? Come on, Dyer.
I think that taking away someone's fundamental right to have a family, make a family, and have kids to pass on their genes is more important than corn. And so all the farmers that are producing that corn, they could produce other far more valuable and important things that are actually eaten for this population.
Soy.
Shut up.
So clearly. Yes, clearly. All of this is policy-based. This is all policy-based. It is problems created by policy, and their solution to those problems is more policy that you have less rights. All of this basically sums up to the left-wing solution for climate change is mass genocide. Go ahead and take this away, Dyer.
Okay, so energy production, in their opinion, has to be reduced by 90%, or at least the reduction in carbon has to be reduced by 90%, which would require, since they're not providing a real solution to replace it, a massive reduction in energy. And if you reduce the energy, you're reducing the ability for the economy to produce goods for people and produce food for people, which means that reducing energy, which is what allows the civilization to grow from tribes to cities to large governments, reducing that population will bring us back to the Stone Age and will result in the death of millions of people. So, and that's they're talking about reducing energy because they're refusing to look at other sources of energy, as we already covered. They want to destroy our energy production, not replace it. And so that means that their goal is the impact of reducing that energy, which is to cause mass genocide and suffering. Some of the reactors they have in Europe are shutting down due to water being too hot to pump back into the river, which is just as a bad design. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so one of the, as we know, Europe has basically just given up all of their gas to Russia. They've stopped pumping it in because instead of creating supply chains which utilize their NATO allies like America, they've just been utilizing their enemy, their NATO enemy, Russia. And then all of a sudden Russia's turned off the gas pipes, so they're kind of screwed. And so their nuclear reactors have become really important because they're one of the primary sources of energy right now due to a lot of the coal plants and natural gas plants not having enough, fuel to run. And just like the UK, the rest of Europe's pretty hot right now, and they need something. They need some kind of electricity to run their ACs, which they do actually have some of. And a lot of people have been saying, oh, well, if Europe hadn't gutted their nuclear program, maybe they could be fine too. And then, you've got the climate activists coming back and saying, no. Look at these reactors in Germany right now. They're actually, the outside temperature is so warm, it's heated up the river that the nuclear reactors use to cool off the rods. And because it's not too hot to absorb the heat back out of the rods, but it's too hot to put it back into the river after they're done with it, because the heat would be too much and it would kill off all of the wildlife in the river, which personally I think is not a problem with the nuclear reactor on its own. It's a problem with whatever idiot designed that solution that we're going to take water out of a river and then put hot water back into a river without letting it cool off. Like, that is just really bad design. So they actually have turned there's at least two reactors that they've had to turn down to 50% power. Otherwise the outflow water would be too hot for the river. Why? That's not a problem with the nuclear reactor. That's not a problem with the climate. That's a problem with the design. And you see this a lot with other things, like you've got like Pete Buttigieg talking about the racist highways, or all of the different technologies that I just described that could be good replacements for green energy or enhancements to current systems. And you just get these awful engineers, civil engineers, just blaming their bad design on, well, it's not that I designed the reactor poorly, it's climate change. It's not that I designed the highway poorly, it's racism. It's not that I designed the energy grid poorly, it's global warming again. I just wonder, like, can I start doing that as a software engineer? Can I just say, oh, my code's got bugs in it, it's not my fault, it's climate change?
They actually it is partially due to government policy here as well, because they have had those reactors were made when nuclear technology was still relatively young, and they haven't allowed for upgrades and replacements with new, like, they've had multiple iterations of better reactors that come out since the ones that we're talking about here. Ones that are far safer, far more efficient, and produce less waste.
Yep. Yeah, there's Gen 1 through 6 reactors for your fission reactors. Gen 1 and 2, which most nuclear reactors in the world are Gen 1 and 2. Gen 1 and 2 were designed exclusively to create as much nuclear waste as possible so that we could put it into nuclear warheads, which was great in the 50s, not so great now. And so there's most climate activism that's anti-nuclear is because of the prodigious volume of nuclear waste that is produced by most reactors, and that's because they're designed to produce waste. The Gen 3, 4, 5, 6 reactors, they don't produce nearly as much nuclear waste. When you start getting into the Gen 4 and 5 reactors, they produce essentially zero waste. They're able to, with mechanisms inside them, internally recycle the uranium until it is no longer radioactive at all. and the only waste product is just completely inert powder. These are the type of reactors that you would see on nuclear submarines or nuclear battleships. Is they're using the Gen 4, 5, 6 reactors, because what battleship, what nuclear submarine is going to have time to come back to dock to dump off 10 barrels of nuclear waste every 3 days? They're not going to do that. They're using the new reactor technology that's designed to create electricity, not designed to create warhead material. And so, but the green energy idiots, again, that takes me a few minutes to explain, right? And it might take you another 20-30 minutes on Wikipedia to learn the difference between the different generations of reactors. And most people don't have the mental staying power to even follow me through what I just said for the last 5 minutes. Some of you, your eyes have already glossed over. And you've got these politicians that realize that, oh, well, my lowest common denominator voter is a complete idiot. And even if I could explain this to them, they wouldn't get it. And I really don't care to explain to them, because I want us to cut off all of our electricity. I want us to design nuclear reactors that are essentially false flags for what nuclear reactor technology could be. And then we'll just turn off all the electricity and let everybody die. That's basically what they're looking at right now.
So I would say that the people that follow us, at least the ones that comment, tend to be far more intelligent than the average person you come across in the street. And I think,
I don't mean to insult the viewers. You guys are all great and smart. I love you guys.
Maybe there's some idiots that we don't talk to that follow us. I don't know, but like say Triumvirate, White Lion, Aberlibus, they all seem to be pretty intelligent people. So I'm sure they get it. But you're right. There's a lot of people who don't. And one reason why they don't is because we're not teaching them. Our schools are not teaching them this, and they have a lot of anti-education, a lot of media news telling them this narrative that nuclear is dangerous and there's no other type of nuclear. So that's what they're starting off with. So you tell them anything different to that, and it's not going to match with what they already think they know, and they'll reject it.
Yep. Alrighty. So a little bit kind of an aside here. We've got at the same time that we're being told that oil is super dangerous and we're all going to die, and you're pretty much evil for using energy and electricity. At the same time as that, Joe Biden's also taking a victory lap on making it 50 cents cheaper for you to buy gasoline. Is it gasoline good or is it bad? I can't tell. They have so much stuff. They have so much propaganda about how bad it is. Yeah, Joe Biden's really excited to tell you that he made gas cheaper and easier to use by like a very tiny fraction. So is it good or is it bad? I can't tell. Do you know, Dyer?
I think it's good because our economy wouldn't survive without it, and people are having trouble surviving with the limited supply we have now.
I think it's good too, but what do they think? Do they think it's good or do they think it's bad?
Well, they think it's terrible. Biden said he wants to destroy the fossil fuel industry. He wants to do away with oil entirely.
Triumvirate, you just rewind it. Dork. All right, so we got this from the Daily Wire. Joe Biden is taking a victory lap as gas prices inch downwards, still nearly twice as high since his first day in office. So President Joe Biden and other White House officials took credit this week for a recent decline in gas prices. During the week of President Biden's inauguration, the national average price of gasoline was $2.38. Oh my God. I remember the day.
Nazi fags.
How dare you?
Jews, you need. Why would you do that?
Adderlupus, to quote Alex Jones, I'm kind of retarded for real show. I know how to listen and think. Yeah, you're a good guy, Adderlupus. I don't mean you. I was just being facetious. I was talking about like the proverbial you, not like any of you specifically. Gosh, I'm gonna this is like the death of Direwolf Media. I accidentally called everybody idiots. I was talking to Dyer, guys.
Jeez. I'm thinking like, man, we got some followers that are smarter than me.
Yeah, we love you guys. Yeah, you remember the days of $2.38 a gallon, Dyer? Man, I could fill up my Kia from like bone dry to like overflowing, like, put an extra gallon on the ground. Just
I remember $1.80.
Yeah,
before Obama.
I could fill the whole thing up for like $28, $30 max. And then now I will go fill up when I'm just down like a quarter tank, and it still costs me $30. And I'm like, wait, I only filled up a quarter a tank.
I got to make sure I get hydrated, really hydrated before I go pump gas, because I'm going to do a lot of crying afterwards.
I'm really not sure where you were going with that. So national average when Joe Biden took office was $2.38, according to U.S. Energy Information Administration. And it rose to $3.53, over $1, by the week when Russia invaded Ukraine. So somehow Putin was able to time travel and increase the price of gas by like $1.
He's a time wizard. I knew it.
Yeah. Yeah, he used to be black. That's how he was a black time wizard, and he used all of his blackness to
face. Oh, yeah. It was you actually can use up your blackness.
Yeah, it consumed the blackness.
Does that explain the differing shades of black?
Maybe when he was black, he went back in time to raise the gas prices, and then Joe Biden said that you aren't black, and then it snapped him back to present time.
Yeah, well, I guess Putin didn't vote for Biden, thus he isn't black.
That's correct. Let's see here. So yeah, raised from 238 to 353 before Putin invaded Ukraine, and then prices have surpassed $5 per gallon in early June, and have slid back a little bit to $4.49 on average this week. Fortunately, I am in a low gas price state, and we're always below the national average. And this week, I think we were at $3.70, which was a rather nice reprieve. Not to mention the fact that prices at the pump are now 89% higher at the beginning of this term. So even at $4.49, that's still 89% higher than the $2.38 that it was when he came into office. Christ. Biden argued on Tuesday that his, quote, actions are working and the prices are coming down. Well, gee whiz golly, thank you, I guess. Especially due to his steady release of strategic reserve oil, some of which found its way to a Chinese
record
company.
Scratch.
Yeah, some of which found its way to a Chinese company with links to Hunter Biden. It's not links to Hunter Biden. Like Hunter Biden, his company owned $1 billion share in it. That's not just like a mundane link there.
Yeah. So it dropped by only a couple cents after his policies made it rise by like 80%, you said, right? So you don't get credit for causing massive injury and then like putting a Band-Aid on it that then falls off immediately.
Well, no, and it's not even just that, like, he's putting a Band-Aid on it. Like, he's using our reserve stock of Band-Aids. Like, he's actually, like, he's concretely I'm missing all my words here. He's like very substantively decreasing our military readiness and like America's resilience to natural disasters right now. He's using our strategic petroleum reserve, which has a purpose, and the purpose is not to correct his mistakes in policy, which is what he's using it for right now.
Yeah. If you look at the full context and you have an understanding of the context of what he's done to cause the problem, and then what he's done to say he's reducing the problem only by a tiny fraction of the harm he caused, and that what he's doing to help reduce that effect is actually causing a different, bigger problem. When you understand that, you realize there's nothing positive about what he's done here. It is only a negative that's being spun as a positive to those who don't understand.
I mean, it'd be like if I like T-boned you with my car and you were like, Fox, how are you going to fix this? And it's like, don't worry, Dyer, I stole this money out of your savings account to pay for the repairs. Like, that's not a solution to the problem.
But you didn't pay for the repairs. You like paid for 1/100th of the repair with my own money that you stole from me.
I just spray painted it, but like I didn't like do any body work to it, so I just spray painted over the crumpled car, and it wasn't even the matching color.
Exactly. Wow, you've made things worse. Thanks.
Yeah, like I stole like $300 out of your checking account to buy 2 spray cans.
It's going to cost me more money to fix the additional damage you caused.
Well, no, and that's actually true, because like whoever the next president's going to be, not only do they have to figure out how to undo all of the policies that caused the gas to be high in the first place, you have a lot of investment in land development that's just not happening right now. And it's going to take a lot longer to get that stuff up to speed to start actually drilling once somebody else gets into office. And then you're also, not only when you start drilling, you're also going to have to start pulling oil out of the economy to refill the reserves. So you're going to have like probably a decade of unstable energy trying to recover from this, because you're going to have a couple of years to start reactivating these wells and start drilling new ones, followed by several years of the government having to outbid the consumer to refill those oil reserves. So it's going to keep oil at a moderately high level for a lot longer time.
Yeah, and this is only like one avenue that he's been making us militarily unready for dealing with conflicts around the world. He's basically hamstringed the U.S. military, making it so the U.S. government can't do the one thing it's actually meant to do. At least not as good as it could be doing. I got to speak with some senior military leaders recently about futurism in the military, where we're going, and just to put it, I guess not very specific, but we're not doing what we need to do to be ready for a near peer conflict. That's as much as I can say, right? So it's very worrying to me that our senior leaders are not preparing us. It's because they're not going to be given the money or direction to do so.
Are you suggesting that only giving, let's say, a bridge crew on a destroyer, only giving them an 8-hour DVD on how to do their job in the bridge crew room, or on the bridge, and then spending 80 hours giving them diversity and inclusion training? Are you saying that maybe that's not what we need to be doing to be ready?
I think what we're doing is we're not giving them enough video presentations on the human penis, because if we did more of that,
not like the Air Force. The Air Force got that down pat.
Yeah. The Navy aren't doing that, though. I guess they assume the Navy guys, seamen,
they already have a familiarity with it.
The Air Force haven't seen one in a while, so
we'll have to pull that up later so people don't just think that you're insane.
Okay, there's a story behind that, just so you know. I'm not insane, really. That happened. We'll get to it later.
Yeah, but I'd throw that as one of the stories. We'll just read the article because the article was funny. All right, back to this story though. So President Joe Biden at POTUS, he tweeted this out this week. I'm sure Joe Biden tweeted this himself and not one of his people. You know what I did like about Trump tweeting was that like it was clearly Trump tweeting it, not just like a stage managed press release, which is what Joe Biden's clearly is. So Joe Biden tweeted out, "I've been releasing about 1 million barrels of oil a day from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. That is not a good thing, sir." I don't know why you don't. Okay. "And I rallied our global partners to release a combined 240 million barrels of oil onto the market." So not only are we decreasing our strategic reserve of petroleum, we've encouraged all of our allies to also destroy their oil reserves. Great. Our actions are working and prices are coming down. Also, let's not forget, too, that has an end point. Like, you can't release your reserves forever. So, like, what are you doing in the meanwhile? Like, the reserves are meant to, like, give you breathing room so that you can get back up to speed with your traditional supply chain. So, like, what are we doing to repair the supply chain while we're using the strategic reserve? Nothing. Joe Biden's tweet was accompanied with this GIF. Ooh, look at that, Dyer. Look at that. Look at that. 450. Wow. Look at that.
That's not great.
Yeah, I would love to watch it on the January 1st, 2020 or January 1st, 2021 to July 19th, 2022, because it would just go up from 230 to 450.
Yeah, and this is a temporary thing. The movement of the market is going to only result in the price going back up and going higher and higher, because the things that are causing it to go up have not changed.
Yeah,
and it's not Putin, by the way.
Well, clearly. So, let's see. So, Jared Bernstein, a member of Biden's Economic Council of Advisors, added on Monday that the administration's policies have produced a bit of breathing room to make ends meet. Well, okay, yeah, but what are you supposed to use the breathing room for? You're supposed to use the breathing room to, like, expand what you can breathe once the breathing room's over. Like, as the market observes the fastest decline in retail prices in a decade. Yes, but it follows the fastest incline in gas prices in a decade. Like, what? It's just only... it's only the good news, and like when it's bad news, it's just like, I think that a lot of this, I wonder if the Biden administration has like a lot of crypto guys in it, because this is how crypto works. Like Bitcoin will take like a $20,000 dump, and everybody's like, no big deal, and then it goes up like $500, and they're like, see, it's coming back.
Okay, added story Z labeled penis.
Perfect. Alrighty. Which we might have to censor that.
It's already censored.
A small preview is that the Air Force released a very detailed explanation as to what the...
They called it a tour of the penis.
I mean, it looks like what you would have for like a new aircraft like demo. Explaining all the things it does.
I'm sure the people who made it are the same people.
Probably. Alrighty. Let's see here. So one reporter pushed back against Bernstein, noting that when it rose, it was Putin's fault, but when it's coming down, Joe Biden, gets the credit. And Bernstein says, I very much disagree with that framing. I don't think continuing to read this is going to provide additional context that is relevant, so I think we'll just leave that one there. Let's see here. So we also have, just calls from various European nations, as we just went over last week with the Netherlands, that, in addition to not having your AC installed, not having, getting rid of 90% of your electricity usage, we also need to, and turning all of your food into gasoline. Well, food we do have left that can be turned into gasoline, like livestock, we also have to get rid of those too, and replace it with food sources like bugs.
Yes,
gross. Bugs. In addition to the depopulation push, we also have a lot of pushes from various scientists around the world to reintroduce wolves to the world.
I support this.
Which Dyer apparently has a different framing. I support this too after reading this Vice article. Vice, scientists find a link between wolf attacks and far-right politics.
What?
The reemergence of wolves in Germany has been accompanied by electoral gains for far-right parties, a new study reports.
What?
So, a little bit of a backfire.
Causation, I'm guessing.
A little bit of a backfire here is that the leftists want more wolves, and wolves want far-right politics. So,
just because people are voting more towards the right, and also at the same time wolves were introduced, does not mean there is a direct connection.
Oh, you're so much more correct than you know that I'm not even going to read this article because I read it before the show, and it's basically exactly what you said. It's just nonsense. Just conjecture about correlation that has no implication for causation. So like this guy, he like pulled in a bunch of different data sources from like wolf attack data and like these wolf reintroduction programs, and then he just like identified a bunch of politicians that he thought were far right, and then basically said, well, there's correlation here, so it must mean that wolves are increasing far right political activity, and the only attempt that he made at making a link between it is that conservatives or right-wingers tend to think that maybe it's not a good idea to reintroduce wolves next to population centers. Whereas
I was going to say, like, it's usually a left-wing proposition to bring in more species or try to protect different species. That generally, not that the right can't support things like that. Like obviously I'm on the right, and I do support wolves being reintroduced where they previously were removed, because the predator is important to a well-balanced ecosystem. But Usually it's the left, and I bet you most people are working on this initiative to bring back wolves into that area are probably left-wingers. The idea that this is supporting right-wing people is insane.
Yeah, I actually I've had that around here. There is a big problem with a something that's similar to mad cow disease, but it affects deer, and they're like the amount of infection across my region and up into Canada is like highly alarming. And the reason why is because there's no wolves. Like, there's no wolves to cull the population. And so, like, they've had a bunch of big hunts where, like, well, we need to just, like, kill as many deer as we can and burn the bodies because of this mad cow disease thing. And it's like, well, like, the solution would probably be just, like, have more wolves and, like, let them, like, handle it. But, you know, there's got to be a balance struck. However, wolves do sometimes, eat people. And so at the same time that they are wanting to get rid of you, they're finding something to get rid of you, like wolves. Is it related to the population culling? That's for you to decide.
Kinda. So
I could be like leftists. I could pull up a story that's like leftists want to introduce wolves specifically so that they will eat people, and Dyer would be like, I think it's justified.
I mean, humanity was kind of a mistake. Anyway, so getting back to that point about them wanting to reduce farms and livestock, that's part of the U.S. AOC's Green New Deal is they want to remove cows because they want to remove the cows' farts, the cows' emissions. So they want to just remove cows and for farms entirely, except for, I guess, a small amount just for the elites, and leave us eating bugs while all the good food is taken away for climate change, which would result in the starvation of millions of people as well, as we talked about. Next we have bugs. Don't eat bugs. I mean, I have eaten bugs before when I was in the field, but that's completely different.
Yeah, that's because you're a freak and you probably loved it.
Or, well, I mean, I was hungry and having to go for long distances every day. So the
yeah, but you didn't have to like smear blood on your face.
That's more of an opinion. So the
howl at hikers.
It was rabbit blood, by the way. I'll tell you a story, but you might not want to hear it. So the release of violent criminals is another thing that they're doing to help cull the population, ironically. So the left wing's policies have been pro-criminal. So they don't arrest, as we talked about in the California story at the beginning, is they don't arrest criminals for committing crimes, and when they do, on the rare occasion, arrest them, they release them and let them offend again. And in the meantime, the people who are law-abiding, if they try to defend themselves, those people go to jail. So. Yeah.
And we actually have a big story about that later in the show today about a Republican candidate for New York governor who was attacked by what appears to be a leftist, and that guy, with a knife, and then the person that attacked this candidate was just let go without any bail, because who cares, right?
Yep. So these liberal cities, Democrat-run cities, have become battlegrounds, and that have as many or sometimes more deaths annually than some actual foreign battlefields. All that adding to their lust for mass genocide to solve our population problem. There's also stories of young liberal, hey honey, young adult liberals sterilizing themselves because they've been taught that having kids is a bad thing. Honey, is having kids a bad thing?
Well, it depends in the situation.
Like if you can support them and take care of them?
If you can support them, yeah, it's a good thing. But if you can't support, then it's a bad thing.
All right. Seems fair. Seems practical. Should you be trying to have kids if you can't support them?
Don't try to have kids if you cannot support the kids.
That's smart.
Do you guys love or regret any of your kids?
Fox asked, do we love or regret having kids?
Oh, I never regret having kids.
You love our kids?
Of course.
It's good to know. Write that down.
I have 4.
Yep.
How many does Dyer have?
How many do I have? That's what he asked. I don't. You okay?
Yeah, just go ahead and hug you.
Ooh, I like what you're wearing.
Oh, shut up.
I would guess what she's wearing, but this is a G-rated show.
Yeah, I didn't look back until that's the moment. Anyways.
And another kid is on the way.
So they're sterilizing themselves. They're being indoctrinated into believing that having kids is immoral and that they should the population needs to reduce. So that they're young guys and girls are being convinced to sterilize themselves. That's terrible because if they're probably going to, when they're older, wish they hadn't. And it was they were basically groomed into not being able to have kids later on. And add into that, the left wing has been, as you guys have seen in the news, grooming kids, pushing them to be trans kids, and thus sterilizing them. They're talking about like age 6, having kids go through gender reassignment surgery.
Yeah. And that's been this weird obsession the left has had with getting children to do stuff for the longest time. There was Libs of TikTok had a video this week that they found, and it was this teacher of like second graders, and she was talking about like, and she looked exactly how you might think she would look, but her entire class of second graders, like 20 second graders, came out to her as non-binary in a day, and she's like, I'm just so glad that they felt like I had a safe place for them to come out. And it's like, no. The story that she told was that in the morning one of them came out as non-binary, and she like clapped for it and everybody was excited, and then like another one came out and they did the same thing, and so like by the end of the day, like all of the kids were like, oh well, like I want to get clapped for too, and so that's why they all came out. But she was just like, oh yeah, like no, it's because they were all non-binary, and I just feel great that they all felt safe. I feel great that they felt like I could be their ally. It's like, why? Like why is these children like having, like, why are you so focused? Why is the left always so focused on like who children want to have sex with and how they're like, what is the mechanics of them having sex with them? Like, what equipment are they using? The left seems to be very hyper focused on that for like, 8-year-olds and below. Like, why? So it's got something to do with pedophilia. Something.
Possibly grooming. Yeah. So it's obviously you give kids positive reinforcement for something, and they'll want to do more of that. Or if they see someone else get positive reinforcement for something, they'll want to emulate the thing they got positive reinforcement for. So yes, it very much just you applauding them is grooming them. For something that you probably taught them about in the first place.
Correct. Alrighty, so in addition to sterilization, we also have the abortion push, which had a lot of friction the last couple of months on that, which we are all well aware of. But yeah, that was another aspect that has been cited for many different things. Janet Yellen, the current Treasury Secretary, cited abortion as needed to maintain a high GDP. If we didn't have abortion, then the GDP would be lower. Which I don't know what she wants a high GDP for, because high GDPs use a lot of energy. So I would think that's
high energy production. We need energy production too, right? So we got to burn those baby bodies.
That is correct. We had that story from a few months ago of the DC abortion clinic selling aborted babies to a company that burned them for electricity. Which very weird sentence. But yeah, you go ahead and make that point there, Dyer.
Yeah, so you may have thought that humanity had evolved beyond the act of sacrificing children to the gods for rain, but you would be wrong, because right now they're saying that to save the climate, we must still abort babies. So that is a long way of a lot of data points pointing out that climate change is the new through line in the left-wing media, and their goal, what they're going to try to convince you, is that we need to control our population. We need to stop having kids, and we need to also reduce the population of Asia and Africa if we're going to stop the climate change. When in reality, our population growing is not going to make the climate change, and reducing it is not going to stop climate change.
Maybe if Africa would just share their vibranium technology from Wakanda, maybe we wouldn't have to worry about fossil fuels. But they're just selfish and greedy like that. So.
Yep.
Alrighty. Our next story is about the swamp. Look at McConnell there, trying to go vote on getting rid of your guns. So Trump has nope, this is story A2, Dyer. It's not story B. Trump has promised to drain the swamp, although this time he's not kidding around, which I don't know if I believe. Trump has recently promised to enact something called Schedule F, which would reclassify up to 50,000 federal employees, which is not nearly enough, and make them eligible for just immediate, you're fired. You're fired.
Fad. Yeah, according to Axios, Trump's team planned to fire 50,000 or more federal employees in his second term had he had one. The first step in that plan was the signing of an executive order in the last year of his term called the Creating Schedule F in the Executive Service. I like how the names of his executive orders are exactly what they're about. So this executive order creates a new federal employment category that lacks the protections that most federal employees have, that makes them very hard to fire, meaning that this new classification would be easier to fire, meaning the president could fire them for any reason. The people assigned to this category would include the heads of major departments, top generals, and most positions vital to enacting the president's policies. The problem with his first term was that his policies were not being enacted and were actually being resisted by those employees that were heading different branches of the federal government, and his generals were lying to him and commanding U.S. forces against his will. So because the federal government was working against the president, he thought it would be wise for him to remove those subversive agents that were preventing the president from actually leading the country. And by recategorizing them so that he could fire or hire them at will. And it kind of makes sense that this should have been the policy all along. And then
the people vote every 4 years to have the executive branch go in a particular direction, and if the executive branch is unable to move in that direction, then what's the point of the election?
Exactly. And this is not unprecedented. There already are lots of positions that are restaffed by the president.
It's not unprecedented in the sense that, like, when we founded the country, we didn't have the Leviathan. Like, there wasn't 50,000 people in the entire federal government.
Yes. It used to be that most of the government offices were restaffed, like the leadership were restaffed. The few offices that existed were restaffed with the president's team, and that still happens to a lesser degree. When Obama took over, he fired most of the White House staff and executive offices and replaced them with his own people. That's what Hillary did. That's what Bush did.
Now, the counter argument, so one of the things, too, is like the Schedule F will include a lot of federal employees that those people were also not able to replace. However, the people that were in place were already fully willing to follow the Bush plan, the Obama plan, the Clinton plan, etc. Now, the counter argument to this has been, well, if Trump makes it easy to fire all these federal employees and replace them with people that will enact his agenda, well, then the Democrats could do the same thing when they get into office.
Okay.
And my response to that is, yeah, okay, like, what did I just say? The point of the executive branch is that the people elect a direction for the executive branch. If the people want a Democrat, go for it. Then that's what you get. And also, Dyer, what would be the risk to us if there's a Democrat-controlled bureaucracy? Is it just what we currently have?
Yeah,
it's not going to get worse.
Have.
Yeah, it's just what we currently have. So, like, the flip side downside to that is really non-existent to irrelevant. So, I say let's do it. When the Republicans are in charge, we can actually do some stuff. When the Democrats are in charge, well, we already know what happens when that happens. It's not going to create any new problems.
Exactly. That'd be Operation Normal. So nothing to worry about that. No, this is a positive thing. Now, Biden, I don't know if you remember, Biden rescinded all of Trump's executive orders. Like, I think, was it by his second month in office?
No, he rescinded them immediately. It was like within the first day he put out an executive order that just said like in bulk, like they're all gone.
Which caused a lot of problems because some of them were stuff that he would have actually probably been okay with.
Yes. The only ones that didn't go away were ones like the Title 43 or whatever at the border, like things that like the courts said like you can't undo that yet.
Yeah. So he undid that executive order almost immediately. And so this whole story that you've probably seen in the news is just people postulating, Axios saying that Trump will probably sign this same exact executive order again, and he will then have this second term where he has nothing to lose because he's not going to get a third term. Maybe. You never know. So he's probably going to use the second term to actually fulfill what his plan was initially for his second term.
Yeah, which, maybe if he'd done that in his first term. What I would like to see... What I'd like to see is if Trump runs and wins, which seems relatively likely at this point, my preference is still DeSantis for multiple reasons. One reason of which is that Trump did not successfully drain the swamp his first time around. I mean, it is what it is. For whatever reason, whatever the reason is, he didn't do it. So, he's got to strike against him on whether or not he's going to do it the next time. However, what I would like to see is, when he gets in, is do what he said, reclassify all these people, fire them, like not within his first year, not with his first 100 days. Yeah, first day. I would like to see. I think that the country is in such dire straits, especially with 2 more years of Biden. I would like to see him skip the inaugural address at noon. I don't want him hanging out in front of the Congress building at noon. I want him in his office at 12:0001 signing stuff immediately. I want people in the Hoover building to be done packing their bags, packing their desk into a box, and walking out to their car at 12:10
under the escort of U.S. Marshals.
Yeah. I want to see Milley already fired. I want to see several kilograms of brass buttons on Trump's desk by 1 p.m. Like, let's get this thing going. And I want to see. I would love to see the best thing I would want to see out of Trump to really know if he's serious about this is install Michael Flynn as CIA or FBI director. Get him back into what he was supposed to be doing and install him back into that position. And give him a blanket pardon for whatever to whatever it may concern. Start grabbing all of these people. There were so many people that Trump tried to install that were actually good candidates for certain things that got caught up in this like fake Russia web thing that the Democrats cooked up and got real prosecutions out of it, got real legal problems out of this completely fake narrative. Go collect all of them and reinstall them where they were supposed to be. That's what I would like to see.
And hire Direwolf as his Secretary of Defense.
Well, I mean, that's probably going to be like the next position above you by the time he starts cleaning out the crap.
Exactly.
I think another great way to do this would be just go to the employee record banks of every bureau and just do a Control F for diversity. Anybody who has the word diversity in their title, immediately fired. Then I would like to see an analysis of line items for expenses. Any expense that has the word diversity in it, find the person that authorized it, they're fired too. I think those two things would be really easy to search out and really easy to do. Now, they probably would be quote unquote hard to do because people would make them hard, but in theory, they'd be easy to do.
So I'm proud to say that none of my evaluations, awards, medals, or anything have anything referring to diversity training or events or supporting any kind of things like that. And the only thing that's in my record is a formal complaint towards a inappropriate action at a diversity event that was then resolved by the base command.
Did you slap them?
So basically what happened was they had a a drag event a drag performance at a family event. I saw the event, didn't bring my family. And right next to the stage where I have this drag queen cursing and doing some very vulgar stuff, right in front of the stage was the kids' bouncy castle. Saw the event going on, drove past it, got contacted the leadership and said, "Hey, this is highly inappropriate. You cannot. This is a kids event. This is not a kids performance. This is an adult performance. No matter what."
You got a reprimand for that, or are you just saying that's on your record that you?
No, it's on my record that I made a formal complaint, and that there was the response from the base commander, I think that they apologized profusely and that this would not happen again.
Oh well, see, so that'd be the third search: is search for anybody who made a complaint about anything with the word diversity and promote them immediately.
I actually also routed it through all the base leadership, saying that everyone who allowed this to happen was wrong. There's a complete failure of leadership.
Exactly, and that's something too, where it'd be like, okay, like who signed their name to authorize that expense? They should be discharged immediately.
So I know that their claimed excuse for it happening was, well, we heard the event was popular at this other base. We didn't really know much about it. We said, oh, well, it's popular there. It must be good here for a family event.
So you're admitting to be derelict in your duty to
exactly.
like sign off on this? Like that's not better. Now, Dyer, you're not totally clean. You spent $50 on washers one time, and I don't mean the kinds that clean your clothes.
I have spent a lot of government money on things I objected to.
Noted.
I'm not happy about it, and I have always tried to spend the money efficiently, effectively, but I've been overruled by people with a lot more rank than me saying, nope, that's your only option.
So do you think you think Trump's gonna... Let's say Trump gets in for a second term, whether or not your preference is for Trump or not. Let's just say that he gets in. Do you think he's actually going to accomplish stuff this time around, or do you think it's going to be like last time, where there'll be a lot of bluster, but maybe not necessarily substantive action?
No, I think that he was naive the first time. He followed the advice of Republicans who did not have his best interest or the interest of the Americans at heart.
Followed a lot of uniforms, too.
He followed a lot of uniforms, and he's learned since then that people in uniform and people who have GOP next to their name, they aren't to be just trusted just because of those things. That he has to find people who will enact his policies. I think he's going to be out for blood, and he's not going to have the fear of losing an election after that. So I do think he will do a lot more. I don't know. I think that he's going to be, of course, having stiff opposition, because just because he wins the election doesn't mean the Democrats are going to, play ball. I don't think that the people say, "Oh, Trump would be great because he's a deal maker." I don't think they're going to be willing to make any deal. They will try the best they can to sabotage our economy and our country,
but
just to make them look bad.
I don't want Trump to be a deal maker. I want him to be the guy that says you're fired.
Exactly. So I think we need someone that will operate in the environment where the Democrats will be trying to sink the country. And I think that Trump is aggrieved enough and has learned his lesson enough to be that fighter that would actually be able to do that. Now, I think DeSantis is far better a politician than he is. I don't know if he's willing to go that extra mile. He's willing to go for the jugular.
Which might be, a Trump DeSantis ticket for the first group, and then Trump can be the battering ram that clears everything out, leaving room for DeSantis to not have to make some of those tough decisions, and let him just do DeSantis type stuff with.
I think we need to let Trump be the
cleaned house.
I think we need to let Trump be the bad guy who does the hard things, and then it's followed up by someone who's a little more presidential.
Fair enough. Alrighty. Anything else on that?
No.
Alrighty. Cool. So, Joe Biden has cancer, just like Darwolf.
What?
And maybe
cancer? COVID. COVID cancer? Like, is it a cross section of COVID and cancer?
He might be just making up both of those, so I don't know. Here's Joe earlier this week talking about coal plants and like I don't know, shutting them down. I guess he's in front of like a dump. I don't even really know. It kind of looks like he's I don't even know where he's at, but he just looks like he's in front of like a dump. But here's Joe speaking this week, where he made a startling admission during his speech.
Under windshield wipers to get literally the oil slick off the window. That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer.
So we have, who's this from? News.au. Joe Biden made another public gaffe. So they said that him admitting that he has cancer is a gaffe. Now, does Joe Biden have cancer? Well, we don't know because the White House said that he does not have cancer. But Joe said that he does have cancer. He didn't say I had cancer, and that's how the White House responded. That's how the Democrat Party responded as well. Joe Biden had melanoma, which is a
non-melanoma skin cancer.
What's that?
It was a non-melanoma skin cancer.
Oh, okay. So it was basically like a mole. He had a mole removed.
Yeah. Melanoma is far more severe. But as you get older, as people get older, they tend to accumulate these cancer spots that they get removed. They go to the doctor to get them removed just in case they become malignant. Yes. So the White House, whom you remember now is a separate person from the president, and the president does not speak for the White House. The White House is the one that has the official statements, and the president is some moron that does not represent the country right now, according to the White House. So the White House later clarified that Biden had a non-melanoma skin cancer spot removed, or spots plural, which is relatively common, as we said, for people of his age. This is very likely is not an incident of Biden revealing some new dire medical condition, because the spots aren't a serious health risk and it really wouldn't be a story, but rather it's instead a further evidence that his mind is gone, in that he casually stated he had cancer and did not explain.
I think that it's not necessarily further evidence that he is losing his mind. I think it's further evidence that he is a evil, nasty person, where he would, in the middle of a story, make up that he had cancer for political clout. To justify climate action, he's going to lie about having cancer because I guess there was oil. Like, first off, the story does not even make sense to begin with. So, like, what are we supposed to take from that in Delaware, like, that there was oil raining down from the sky? Like, what on earth would cause that? Like, that's not even like that's not a thing that happens. But let's just take his word for that. He is lying about having an severe illness, cancer, trying to tug at your heartstrings, be like, oh man, like, well, I didn't really want to do climate action and shut down all these coal plants, but man, Joe Biden's got cancer. So like, this is just more evidence that he is a giant bag of dicks who will say anything, make up any story. And we know that Joe Biden's a prolific fibber, fabricator of narratives, talking about how he's been to Afghanistan 50 times, how he, went to jail with Nelson Mandela once, that probably, after setting somebody's, neck on fire with a tire full of gasoline. Just tons and tons of stories, that he used to be a truck driver, that he, fought off Corn Pop with a chain, a lot of different stories that he's made up. But like, I mean, what kind of person lies about having cancer for political clout?
A person whose mind's not working well enough to realize the consequences of that statement, realizing that saying casually you have cancer when you're the president might actually have far more negative an impact than the positive you're thinking you're going to get from that political clout.
Yeah. So his tact, not having the tact to realize that is evidence that his mind's going. But the core of that is that he had the initial idea because he's an evil person. That, I'm going to try to tug at their heartstrings by lying about cancer. But the part of his brain that would have said, hold up, we can't do that because of these reasons, that part's not working. So that is the other option, is that Joe Biden does have cancer, and that they're trying to cover it up. And he probably has chemo brain, which is a big problem. That would explain a lot of his inability to articulate anything. So the two options that we have are either that he has cancer and they're trying to cover it up, and he's taking mind-altering drugs, which chemo is well known to do, or he's just such a evil, cynical politician that he will say literally anything to justify his point. He's not making a point about, here's the chemical reactions that coal plants cause that, have XYZ effect on the environment, and these are why those should be important to you. This is what we need to do to stop this thing, etc. He's not making any kind of scientific justification. He said, we need to shut down this coal plant because I have cancer. I have cancer, Dyer. You have to do this because I have cancer. You wouldn't want to disappoint me when I have cancer, would you? Do you have cancer?
I don't mind if you have cancer. I'll still disappoint you. I have no limitation to my ability to disappoint people. It gets worse for little Biden here. The former Vice President Biden now apparently has COVID, which means for a person of his age and possibly with cancer, that could be a real problem.
I do want to back up just a second, though. So what you said earlier, that Joe didn't have the tact to think that, like, oh, maybe me saying as the president that I've got cancer, maybe that could have, external ramifications. So what's funny is you would think that, but it actually didn't. So Joe Biden announcing that he had cancer did not affect the stock market at all. It did not move an inch.
That shows he's not in charge, doesn't it?
So normally you would think, like, oh my God, like that could an announcement like that could cause a flash crash in the markets, like, really quickly. We've seen this multiple times where the most famous one was the AP Twitter account was hacked, and then they tweeted out, from @AP that President Obama was just killed in an assassination. And the market dropped, the Dow dropped like 2,000 points in like 5 minutes, and then it bounced back up 10 minutes later because AP was able to put out a correction and announce that there was they were hacked. But that caused like worldwide panic in every financial market within seconds of it being said. And Joe Biden announces that he has cancer, and the market is just like, we don't believe you. Like, nobody, nothing Joe Biden says can be believed. We do not believe you. Nobody took the opportunity to be like, oh my God, that the market's going to dip. Like, nothing happened. It's just business as usual. Like, oh, there goes Joe again. Nobody cared, which is quite incredible that everybody immediately knew that it was not true. Everybody immediately knew that Joe Biden did not have cancer and that he was lying.
Yep.
That's amazing. Which brings us to approximately 14 hours later, after we found out that Joe has cancer, and then we're told that he doesn't have cancer. 14 hours later, they announced that Joe Biden has COVID. It's just like, what a roller coaster, man. Let me off of this
whiplash
thing.
Over here, right?
What's that?
Getting whiplash over here with the change of directions.
Definitely. All right.
So he has COVID apparently. At least he was vaccinated, right?
Yeah, at least. And we have this fun compilation of just how vaccinated Joe really is and what being vaccinated means to Joe.
The fact is, this has been a pandemic of the unvaccinated. The Delta virus, which is much more transmissible and more deadly in terms of unvaccinated people, the various shots that people are getting now cover that. You're okay. You're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations. If you're unvaccinated, you have some reason to be alarmed. Many of you will, you'll experience severe illness in many cases if you get COVID-19, if you're not vaccinated. Some will die. We have in hand all the vaccines we need to get every American fully vaccinated, including the booster shot. So there's no excuse for anyone being unvaccinated. This continues to be a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
Yeah, there's no excuse. And if you don't get the vax, you're going to die from COVID. You're going to get COVID if you don't get the vax. Now, if he had said that...
That's right, Tucker. So we had that, which rolled us right into Joe Biden announcing that he had COVID, which is quite the shot chaser there. We here at Direwolf Media, we have just one thing to say is thank God Joe Biden was vaccinated. Thank God.
Yep. Just definitely stopped him from getting the disease, right?
Exactly. Let's see. I think we have Joe announcing that he had COVID. I thought that was in that clip, but I must have been wrong. Go ahead and read off those things, Dyer.
So the White House says he'll be continuing his duties as the president remotely from the White House. We would appreciate it, however, if you just would start doing his duties as president.
Today, President Biden.
Yeah, maybe he could stop doing the things that he has been doing.
Start doing his responsibilities.
Yeah. So we just gave you the shot of Joe Biden talking about this being a pandemic of the unvaccinated, and then here's Joe Biden, super vaccinated.
Hey, folks, guess you heard this morning I tested positive for COVID.
President.
Boom.
We got a pandemic of former vice presidents getting COVID.
Yes, we have a pandemic of the vaccinated, which is actually a side story, which we will read out a little bit. I've got another story attached to this, Dyer, but we'll go through what's written out here first. But yeah, there's some interesting data coming out recently about weird correlation between catching COVID and also being vaccinated.
Very strange.
I'm sure it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, don't look into it too much.
Yeah.
So it's only science. The Democrats may use the excuse, some have postulated, that Biden having long COVID as a reason for Biden to not run for a second term. Both Hillary Clinton and Michelle Obama have been making the headlines recently, making it look like they might be considering running instead of Biden.
If that's what it takes, I will agree. I will agree to Joe Biden having long COVID, if that's what it takes.
And it makes sense with Biden's popularity. I think calling it low is not really describing exactly how bad his popularity is right now. But the Dems definitely see blood in the water, and they are not being shy about saying that they don't want Biden to run. Like, there's a high percentage of Democrats say they don't want to vote for Biden. They want someone else. So nearly all
This is so
50...
weird. Hold on a second. I'm getting a call from CDC. Let me go ahead and talk. I'm going to answer this, see what they want. Maybe I'll put it on show if it's interesting.
Yeah, maybe. Nearly all 50 Democrat officials interviewed by the New York Times feared that Biden's re-election campaign would not help their party against the Republicans. They see him as toxic. When he goes to different states to campaign for different issues, the politicians of those states are not meeting with him because they see him as being toxic for ratings. They're afraid that if they are associating themselves with Biden, that they will not win their elections. That they're seeing that Biden's popularity is going to cause a red wave in the midterms and likely cause a loss if he runs in 2024. The Democrat National Committee, DNC, member Steve Simon Demis of Miami. Wow, now I say his name, I apologize. It's Simeonidis. He generally was pessimistic about his party's leadership and called on Biden, who's 79 years old now, by the way, to let someone new take over in 2024.
So, Dyer, I'm getting a call from the CDC right now, and they would like to give me a survey about COVID vaccines, and they're currently asking their manager whether or not I'm allowed to play that on live stream.
Do it either way.
Okay, thank you.
Hello? We can't hear you. Okay, well, Fox's audio has dropped out. Maybe the CDC has come from the FBI coming in through the ceilings. They're arresting him right now for being a vaccine denier. It's nice knowing you, Fox. I guess I should say that we're open for new people to join the Direwolf team to be a producer.
You can, you can start the survey if you'd like.
Okay. Am I speaking to someone who is 18 years old or older?
Yes, you are.
Okay. How many children between the ages of 12 months and 4 years old
20.
are living or staying in your household?
0.
Damn it.
How many people less than 18 years old live in this household?
0.
Thank you for your responses. We now have a few additional questions for you about COVID-19 vaccinations. Before we continue, I'd like you to know that taking part in this survey is voluntary. You may choose not to answer any questions you don't wish to answer or end the interview at any time with no impact on the benefits you may receive. We are required by federal laws to develop and follow strict procedures to protect your information.
What benefits do you get?
Only for statistical analysis. I can describe these laws if you wish. I'd like to continue.
Ask about the benefits. Is it cash? Cash.
Yeah, I'd like to hear the description of any of those benefits or any of the other things that you could describe.
All right. The Public Health Service Act is Volume 42 of the U.S. Code, Section 242K. The collection of information in this survey is authorized by Section 306 of this Act through the National Center for Immunization and Respiratory Diseases.
Doesn't sound like a list of benefits.
The confidentiality of your responses is assured by Section 308D of this Act. Would you like me to read the confidential information protection provisions to you?
No, we can skip over that. Thank you, though.
All right. The remainder of this survey will take about 8 minutes.
Okay.
In the past 2 years, have you received any type of vaccine that was not a COVID-19 vaccine, such as seasonal flu, pneumonia, or shingles vaccine?
I have not.
I have.
Have you received at least 1 dose of a COVID-19 vaccine?
No.
How likely are you to get a COVID-19 vaccine? Would you
Negative 100%.
Get a vaccine? Probably get a vaccine? Probably not get a vaccine? Definitely not get a vaccine? Or are not sure?
You're going on a
Definitely
list,
not
Fox.
get a vaccine under the current scientific information.
You're on a list now. They're going to come for you.
Are you a frontline or essential worker according to your state or region?
I'm actually not sure. I think I'm qualified as an essential worker because I work in the food industry. So I think yes, I'm considered an essential worker.
And what location or setting do you currently work in? You said food industry?
That's correct. I'm a application developer, but I work for a food company.
Okay. Do you have a health condition that may put you at higher risk for getting very sick from COVID-19?
No.
Do you have serious difficulty seeing, hearing, walking, remembering, making decisions, or communicating?
No.
I don't remember.
To your knowledge, have you ever had COVID-19?
Yes, I believe I contracted COVID-19 in January of 2020, late January or early February of 2020. I had all of the signs, symptoms, and my what I thought was flu turned out to be. It seemed very likely to be COVID-19, though I never got an antibody test for it.
Okay. And how concerned are you about getting COVID-19 again? Would you say you are not at all concerned, a little concerned, moderately concerned, or very concerned?
What was the a little bit more than not concerned? I'm a little bit more than not concerned.
You have not at all concerned, a little concerned, moderately concerned, or very concerned.
I'm a little concerned.
Okay. And how How safe do you think a COVID-19 vaccine is for you? Would you say not at all safe, somewhat safe, very safe, or completely safe?
Somewhat safe.
How important do you think getting a COVID-19 vaccine is to protect yourself against COVID-19? Would you say it is not at all important, a little important, somewhat important, or very important?
Not at all important.
If you had to guess about how many of your family and friends have received a COVID-19 vaccine, would you say none, some, many, or almost all?
Many.
Has a doctor, nurse, or other health professional ever recommended that you get a COVID-19 vaccine?
Yes, many health professionals have recommended it, but none that like are personally my doctor have recommended.
Okay, and do you have a regular physician or provider for primary care?
I do not.
Does your work or school require you to get a COVID-19 vaccine?
Clearly not.
They did not.
How difficult would it be for you to get a COVID-19 vaccine? Would you say not at all difficult, a little difficult, somewhat difficult, or very difficult?
Not at all difficult.
What is your current age?
30.
Old man.
What is your sex, male or female?
Male.
Whoa, that's kind of sexist, assuming there's only two.
Yes or no question. Would you describe yourself as transgender or non-binary?
I would not. No.
What best describes your sexual orientation? Is it heterosexual or straight, lesbian or gay, bisexual, or something else?
Why does it matter? Does it make the vaccine more effective?
Are you of Hispanic or Latino origin?
Yes.
Are you Mexican, Mexican American, Chicana, Puerto Rican, Cuban, Central American, South American, or of other Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin?
I'm a Spaniard from Spain. That's my lineage, how we're Hispanic.
All right. Now I'm going to read a list of categories. Please choose one or more of the following categories to describe your race. Are you white, black or African American, American Indian, Alaska Native, Asian, Native Hawaiian, or other Pacific Islander?
From that list, I would consider myself white.
So you're an oppressor.
When seeking health care in the last 2 years, do you feel your experiences were worse than, the same as, or better than people of other races or ethnicities?
I would say same as.
How would you know? Do you watch them get their medical care?
What is the highest grade or year of school you have completed?
Bachelor's degree. So 4 years of college.
All right. And do you have any kind of health care coverage? This includes health insurance, prepaid plans such as HMOs, or government plans such as Medicare or Indian Health Service?
Yes, I do.
Please think about your total combined family income during 2021 for all members of the family. Include money for jobs, Social Security, retirement income, unemployment payments, public assistance, and so forth. Also include income from interest, dividends, net income from business, farm, rent, or any other money income received. Can you tell me that amount before taxes?
Did you ask for household income or my personal income?
Household income.
Give me a second to think about that.
You want to mute this first to answer the question? Just a suggestion. Thank you guys for sticking with us through this
that is
kind of funny call.
What is your zip code?
Definitely don't include that. Yeah, it seems very specific. Like, I wouldn't want to give this much information to people.
Yes, I was.
Now I have some questions about your entire household, including the adults and all the children. How many people live in this household?
2.
Both are children.
Do you speak a language other than English at home?
No.
Do you have landline telephone in your household?
No.
Wonder what any of this has to do with vaccines or the CDC.
Those are all the questions I have. You may be recontacted in the future to participate in related surveys. If you are contacted to participate in future surveys, you have the right to refuse. I'd like to thank you again on behalf of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention for the time and effort you spent answering these questions.
Okay.
If you would like more information about the National Immunization Survey, please call 1-877-220-4805. If you have questions about your rights as a survey participant, you may call the Newark Institutional Review Board at 1-866-309-0542.
Okay, thank you so much.
Have a good day.
Thank you, you too.
My favorite part of that call is that she said that there's benefits you get for doing the survey, and they couldn't actually list any benefits.
Yeah, I was wondering about my benefits there. I did catch because she read back my income and my zip code, so I caught the mute button on that in time. So, but you guys just learned a lot about me. I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as the CDC did. That was wow. It's almost like I planned that. That was fun, wasn't it? Right in the middle of talking about Joe Biden's COVID, and then I get a call from the CDC. I was like, I looked at my caller ID, and it was like CDC Atlanta, Georgia. I was like, what in the hell? I was like, I have to answer this. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I mean, it was kind of definitely, obviously impromptu, but hopefully that was a bit enjoyable, and you got to learn all sorts of interesting facts about Fox.
Was very topical, and I mean, a lot of people got their answers about questions about you answered. So, in any case, a lot of that survey had nothing to do with vaccines.
That was I was particularly interested in the gender identity section. Yeah, so they're mixing. I'd be curious to see what this data actually comes out as, because they're mixing gender identity and racial makeup with your vaccine status and your vaccine hesitancy. Obviously, a lot of those questions were meant to gauge vaccine hesitancy, which clearly I will be labeled as vaccine hesitant, which is fine. But yeah, I'd be curious to see what they're going to do with that, because I feel like that could be problematic for the government to be making decisions about vaccine hesitancy as grouped by race and gender identity, because you can also get a lot of other information from that survey, right? So like you could get a bunch of demographic information that has nothing to do with vaccination status, but has to do with racial makeup and gender expression, right? Which is like a whole other thing on its own. It has nothing to do with COVID vaccines. This was like clearly a bunch of different surveys mixed together. They just put it under the auspices of like, well, it's for COVID and we have all of this money, and so now we can just do a bunch of surveys about nonsense. And
I think it's related to how they've been talking about how they've been noticing that some populations are more vaccine hesitant and less trusting of the CDC, such as black communities are far less trusting of taking vaccinations from the government for some reason.
Yeah.
So I think that they've been spending a lot of money on racial specific outreach for vaccines, trying to, for some reason, still latch onto this little bit of government power. And I think this is just a follow-up, trying to see how well they're doing.
I'd be I probably should have answered, because I guess in theory I was required by my job, though they gave us a 6-month grace period, and that 6 months grace period was enough to cover to the point where the Supreme Court said you're not allowed to require vaccines. But like my work was only requiring vaccination because the federal government required it, and as soon as that got struck down, my work stopped pushing about it. So in theory I was, but like I'm not currently required, so I guess like the correct answer is still no.
Yeah, I was required. Otherwise, I'd be kicked out.
Good thing you got so many kids already.
Yeah, the wife didn't get vaccinated, and neither will have any of the kids. Though it was threatened that if she traveled back home, they would vaccinate her and the kids at the airport.
Christ.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
So that's why she hasn't got a home.
Did you have any other thoughts on that call? As a impromptu segment there.
No, I gave you my thoughts on the call throughout the call.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to. I wanted to respond. Obviously, I got my headphones on so I can hear you guys, and then I just put my phone next to my mic, so she couldn't hear you guys. But that's fun. She never got back to her. So when I muted you guys, I told her, I was like, okay, I'm a streamer. I'm on a live stream right now talking about politics, and we have a bunch of viewers here who might be interested in the survey too. Is it okay if I put you on speakerphone so that they can hear you while you give me the survey? And she's like, I'm gonna have to ask my manager. And her manager never obviously didn't come back in the first 30 seconds. I was like, you know what, you can just go ahead and start, it's okay. And then she just did. So I guess whatever.
Sounds like consent to me.
Yeah, it sure does.
Silence is consent.
I believe I'm in a one-party consent state. So also, it's the government. The government doesn't have the I don't think that they have.
Are you sure? Because the government has a lot of rights we don't have.
That's true. That's true.
We're probably fine. Anyways, moving on. Where were we? We were at here. Okay, did that already. We're here.
Nearly billions of dollars of government money being blown on weird COVID studies, apparently.
Yeah.
So I have a story to wrap this up from the AP. Which actually goes along with the questions that the nice lady just asked me. You telling me to fuck off?
No, not you. I would never want you to fuck off. You're great. But this link here is what I was referring to. Fuck off to.
Oh, so this nice lady from the CDC just asked me if I thought the vaccine was safe, and I said, somewhat safe, because I think that the number of people that have had it and not had adverse effects is pretty high, but the number of people who've had it and have had adverse effects is also rather high. So we have this story from the AP, which due to constraints on YouTube, Dyer and I will be, I'll be reading verbatim, and Dyer will be making noises and not actually saying anything. We're going to read this verbatim and not make any comment on it because it speaks for itself.
Yes.
From the AP, a Swedish study on COVID vaccines and DNA has been misinterpreted. Claim, this is an AP fact check. Claim, a Swedish study shows that Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine changes recipients' DNA. Well, that's pretty big if true. AP's assessment, false. The study tested whether the vaccine's mRNA could be converted to DNA and found that this was the case in certain lab-altered cells under experimental conditions. Wait. Hold on a second. A Swedish study... The claim is that Swedish study shows that Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine changes recipients' DNA. Assessment false. The study tested whether the vaccine's mRNA could be converted into DNA and found that it was the case. Okay. That was the AP's fact check, everybody.
Huh. Wow.
Well then,
that's
very interesting. So,
yeah.
Yeah. So that's fascinating. Along with a lot of other studies that have been showing, women's menstrual cycles have been adversely affected for months and months at a time after taking the vaccine. And, male sperm counts are very low after getting the vaccine. That's weird. So meanwhile, here I am Gay, not using my sperm for anything productive.
Wasted.
Dyer just fried his.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoy the kids you do got.
I'm stuck at 4 probably for the rest of my life. 4 sperm. Anyway.
All right. Well, anything else? Did you want me to click on this link here?
Let's cover the thing above it first. Okay, I guess for context, what I was saying, fuck you, about was this tweet here.
What the fuck is this thing?
It says solar panels made to act like collect sun like a sunflower. Like, fuck you, that's what solar panels do.
Let me see here. Let's watch this fun little... Okay, so all they do is they just tilt towards the sun. Like, that's what good solar panels do, is they have sun tracking. Like, this isn't new technology.
This is not new technology, but like saying, oh, it's copying the, like, does what sunflowers do. No, it's...
All they did was put it on a more fragile frame. Like,
yeah.
There's, like, infinitely more moving parts.
Yeah, it's far more breakable, and those panels are less efficient than the ones that are commercially available. Like, that... I hate that these art degree people think that they're inventors.
Hey, at least I'll give them this, Dyer. At least it is a real product. It's not just a CGI. Yes, I will give them that. That's actually pretty rare. Normally these things are CGI, but like this is clearly a real product. So
this is not more efficient a design. It is just a more creative looking design, and you need to realize you're giving up efficiency for looks.
Yeah. Now they did actually in all seriousness, they did actually make a recent breakthrough with a new solar panel material, which is actually rather interesting because it does exactly what I said needed to happen for solar panels to actually be viable. Most solar panels are somewhere between like 8 and 12% efficient. And what's interesting is photosynthesis is actually like up in like the 70s to 90% efficient. And what's interesting is chlorophyll actually uses a quantum entanglement mechanism to make sure that the photon hits the exact right spot every single time. They've actually been able to like show this like experimentally and scientifically and shown that without quantum entanglement, the chlorophyll doesn't really work as efficiently. And it's enough so that like plants can't actually exist. So chlorophyll has somehow been able to exploit this quantum aspect to photons, but our traditional solar panels do not do that. But this new material that they just made actually gets really, really high efficiency, and what they did was part of it is they figured out how to create these quantum channels that make sure the photon hits at the exact right spot every time so that it's much, much more efficient at capturing that energy. So we actually have had some pretty big breakthroughs in the last few months on solar technology, though I don't know that it's going to be enough to really, bridge that gap of completely replacing fossil fuels or something like that. But it could do better. It could do better. I'm all for different kinds of technology and all kinds of different energy generation. I think we do need to have a diverse grid that's got lots of different things that are producing electricity. But the caveat is that they have to produce the electricity. If they don't produce the electricity, then the diversity is not worth a whole lot.
Yep.
Alrighty. So.
Nice. Going back to the stories about Biden and his COVID. So CNN and other left-wing news sources are no longer hiding the Hunter Biden laptop story, showing that the media is losing their support for Biden. So we were covering before how the Democrat National Committee and Democrat politicians are saying that Biden should not run. And now we have the data point that the media, that was the only thing that really helped get Biden elected, because they were hiding his flaws and editing his words to make it sound like he could actually make complete sentences. Well, they're losing. They're actually starting to show his gaffes. They're actually commenting on his gaffes. They're talking about his dirty business dealings. It looks like they want him out, and that means he's probably not going to be running for the next term. And I think that it's possible that their way of giving him a more, a less embarrassing way to step down would be to say that he has long COVID.
Yeah, I mean,
one option.
Again, I will gladly proclaim the false narrative that Joe Biden has long COVID. Like, whatever it takes to like get him out of there, I really don't care. What I'm curious to see is who do the Democrats think they're going to replace him with. I know that there's some talk that maybe they're going to replace him with Gavin Newsom, which is rather laughable. I don't think that the American psycho aspect that he's trying to portray himself as, I don't know that plays very well in anywhere but California and New York, maybe, possibly DC. I think most of the rest of the country is not going to be real into that, a candidate that plastic.
The other options are Hillary and Melania. No, Michelle Obama.
Yeah, Michelle maybe, though I think that's still a pipe dream. I know the left likes to talk about her a lot. I know the right likes to talk about the left talking about her a lot, but I don't hear anybody else talking about her. I don't see them. The Obamas, they had a $14 million Netflix contract for like a TV show and podcast they were doing, and that where's that at? It disappeared because nobody wanted to watch it. Michelle's books, after having New York Times bestsellers for the first few weeks of the release, all of a sudden sales go to zero because nobody's really actually buying them. All the purchases are straw purchases simulated. That they're buying in bulk to make it jump up the charts. The Kamala, obviously the country has already explained that we do not like her multiple times. That's been very clear from the previous primaries. Who else? Hillary. Well, the country's already said that we're not really interested into Hillary. I think that all the problems Hillary had and the reason why she lost the first time, I don't see any of those changing. Like I don't really see anybody who is like, oh yeah, like I've got these issues with Hillary because of her corruption and etc. I don't see any of those having changed the last what will be 8 years. Wow, 8 years. I just don't see this changing. Pete Buttigieg, he doesn't really have anything behind him. The excitement about being gay and all these other things that he was, that clearly did nothing in the primaries. You can simulate that it does something when Joe Biden just picks him from obscurity and installs him, but that was only so that you could get the diversity credit or whatever. But the American people, like we didn't really buy into that during the primaries, clearly. So I don't see that working either. I just don't see. I don't know. I don't see any of them actually being able to pull off a win against anybody on the Republican side right now.
I don't think the question was whether or not they could win. I just think that they're going to run somebody other than him because Biden clearly can't win. But I agree with you. I don't think there's anyone with the current setup. The Democrats have been abusing the people for too long, and I think that they've lost their core support. You look at the demographics, and where they usually have Latino and Black support in the majority, they have lost a lot of that support. Because those groups that they've been catering to for a long time, giving lots of big promises, but never actually fulfilling those promises. In fact, when the promises they have fulfilled have been negative, supporting, fighting against police and trying to reduce policing, that has been very bad for those communities. So I think that they've saw, things were much better for us under Trump, and far worse for us under Democrats. I think that they've lost a lot of core support that they might not ever be able to get back.
We'll find out. All right, well, let's jump off to our next story here. And I guess well wishes to Joe Biden, though.
Good luck.
Yeah. Alrighty. So our next story is it's okay when Republicans do it, or it's okay when it happens to Republicans. I mean.
Yeah.
So. Lee Zeldin, he is a Republican congressman. I think he's actually a federal congressman. I thought he was a state congressman, but I don't know. I'm sure the story will explain. He was attacked this week while he was giving a speech because he's also running for governor of New York, and somebody tried to stab him while he was giving a speech, and the person was immediately let free without bail.
Yep.
So Lee Zeldin's attacker has been arrested and charged for a second time after they released him the first time. They're like, wait a second. You're not just allowed to try to assassinate politicians. And now faces federal charges because the state of New York was unable to press charges against him. So the man that was released from police custody after Direwolf Media is going to say actually attacking because it's on camera. I don't really need to beat around the alleged.
Don't need to say alleged.
Yes. Attacking Rep. Lee Zeldin, a Republican from New York, during a campaign event on Thursday night, was arrested again on Saturday, which is yesterday, on a federal assault charge. David Jakubonis. That'd be a hell of a name to try to put on a patch. He's also a veteran from Iraq, so clearly some issues there. Was charged at the state level with second-degree attempted assault. No. When you put a knife to somebody's throat, that is attempted murder. But he was released on his own recognizance. Wow. On Thursday, according to the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, Jakubonis will now stand before the U.S. Magistrate Judge Marion W. Payson on Saturday to face his federal charges, Fox News has reported. Following his suspected attacker's release, Zeldin pinned the blame on New York's leftist bail law, which is interesting because Zeldin, after being an attempted assassination, Zeldin continued to speak on Thursday. And during his speech, he said, I bet you this guy's going to get let out without bail because that's the New York's bail reform laws, just let criminals out. And he was actually proven correct within like a few hours. Quote, after being charged with a felony for last night's attack, the man who tried to stab me was instantly released back onto the street due to New York's insane cashless bail law. We must repeal cashless bail in New York, the congressman tweeted. Which, that's pretty, that's pretty poignant that his position is like, let's get rid of cashless bail. And then the guy who tries to kill him gets out on cashless bail. And he's like, see, I told you.
Oh, man. So this is a great example for everyone to see because this has happened to thousands and thousands of people for the last couple of years because these are people just like this who have attacked someone, domestic battery, assault with a deadly weapon. These people are getting arrested and then immediately released, and then they go on and attack more people. Sometimes the rapist goes on and kills the person they raped, or assaults the person they raped, or the girlfriend that was being assaulted gets assaulted again because they are protecting the criminal, not the victim.
Yep. And here's a video of the event, which is a little for me, Dyer's probably just cool as a cucumber, but for me, it's a little get the heebie-jeebies watching somebody go someone's neck like that with a knife. Jeez. So this guy, we don't know a lot about him. We know that the guy, after some research from various internet sleuths that typically turn up good stuff about unknown people in situations like this. We know that he's an Iraqi veteran. We know that he frequently posts about Black Lives Matter and different woke type things. It would seem that he was a leftist of some kind, that he was buying into various narratives about Republicans causing problems. When he went to stab Zeldin, he can be heard saying, you're done, probably referring to the Republicans trying to, kill grandma and that sort of stuff. He then kind of tried to retract himself a little bit. He was actually drunk, and I believe the excuse that's being made for him is he was drunk. Which, Dyer, that's just something when you take it.
Does that make it okay? Oh, I murdered that guy, but I was drunk.
Yeah,
right? That's
actually not a good excuse. It's actually makes it a little bit worse because I believe I think it's a modifier if you commit a felony while inebriated.
Yes,
I think it actually makes it worse. So yeah, the Zeldin has another veteran on his staff who's in the Marine Corps. He was also there to settle the guy down, and I guess later on video you can hear him saying, this is whatever your issues are, we'll get you veterans assistance, stuff like that, which is I guess cute at the time, but I don't, you can't go around stabbing Congress people for political reasons. whatever happened to you over there, like, that sucks, but like, you can't, that doesn't, like, you're not allowed to go do that. And I really don't care if you get help or not after you try to do that. Like, that's not okay. You can't do that.
Yep. 100% agree. I think that, as I was saying to you in chat before, I think that this is going to happen more often because you teach guys that, you know, it's okay to use violence to defend your country from threats both foreign and domestic, and then the left have tried very, very hard to paint the right as being fascist, evil monsters. They're trying to destroy the country, and if you get some people who are trained a certain way, have a certain tolerance for violence, and then teach them that their country is in danger, they might respond like this. You're goading them to violence, right?
Yeah. And I'll come back to that because I do have a comment to follow up on that. But yeah, when you watch the video, you can see the guy the assailant doesn't really like go full force and do it. But the Selden guy like grabs his wrist, and I mean, he must be like decently in shape to be able to like hold back somebody by the wrist like that. He kind of just snatched it out of the air and held it there. So I guess good on him for having those cat-like reflexes while he has a cat-shaped brass knuckle coming at his neck. Pretty good situational awareness there, and good reflexes. So that's the kind of guy who I want to be governor of my state.
It looks more like a brass knuckle than a knife, don't you agree?
No, so somebody was able to pull up like an actual like image of like what that device is. So brass knuckles are just hard points. These are actually like sharp. Like it's like brass knuckles with like knives on them. I don't know. I'm sure it has a name, but I don't know what it would be called. But it is it's like basically like putting like Wolverine claws on. So like those would pierce. Like you can see that they're pointy.
It's a weird thing to have.
It kind of looks like a cat, like the actual device, but like I don't know if it's supposed to be a cat or if it just like has two ears, and doing that thing where you see faces and everything. But maybe he's also a cat boy. There seems to be a high preponderance of military veterans that are. No comment. No, I agree that this kind of thing's probably going to start happening, and I think to a certain extent, we're going to have to go through a similar process to the right in general is going to have to go through a similar process with military that we went through with police, and that is not universal back the blue. You do got to be cautious about what these guys are doing, what they might be enforcing. You have a lot of problems right now with the left having pretty much subverted the entire military leadership. We now have those sorts of trainings and indoctrinations, which we've always had in the military. I mean, that was kind of the point of it, was to train and indoctrinate you into the ways of the military. But now the left is subverting that and training and indoctrinating into the ways of leftism. That's why we're seeing so much diversity, inclusion, and equity training going on in the military. And the thing I think that's going to have to start happening is the right is going to have to start getting used to this sort of thing. I think that to a certain extent, we need to be, I don't know, at least getting more familiar with members of the military acting against the public. If there is, I realize like to talk about Civil War, if there ever is something like that, who's going to be fighting on the side of the leftist government? It's going to be members of the military who don't desert. So there is going to be a point, or there could be a point in the future where there might be issues with members of the military coming after politicians, one way or the other. This could also happen the other direction, though it seems seemingly less likely, unless...
The ones in uniforms are going to be the ones that support the government. The ones that are out of uniform are the ones who chose to give up their safety of being part of the government machine to fight for principle.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
And I don't know, I mean, Dyer, I really don't know how someone who served can come back to the country, because like kind of the trope, right, is like you go serve your country, you come back, and it's like, man, like what happened to my country. I have all this like insanity like running amok right now. I don't know how you like interpret that as like, oh, the Republicans caused this. Like, do you? I don't know. Do you have any insight into that?
I don't know, but I have come across a few people in the military who have drank the Kool-Aid and believed the lies, and every single time it's because they only watch certain news sources that tell them only one perspective, and they believe that any other news source they could get news from is going to lie to them, so they don't even try. So they love watching CNN, and they believe all those lies. So that's what causes it, is just the controlling the information.
Yeah. So I do think that the right, we in a similar way that we did with police, that we became acclimatized to police that are causing problems and acting on behalf of authoritarian regimes. I think that we also need to become acclimatized to the idea that is possible with the military as well. As a veteran, he's not active duty, so he's not doing this like on behalf of the military or behalf of anybody. And I don't think it's representative of Iraqi veterans or the army or anything like that. I'm just saying that there are people, as Dyer said, there are people out there that are trained to kill, and that is the method with which they solve that problem. And when they are constantly ingesting day after day that Republicans are trying to kill us, that they're starting a race riot, that they're doing all of these evil, awful things that Republicans do, sometimes you'll get a guy who says, it's time to stop. I'm going to stop you. You're done. And then puts a knife to the guy's neck. So that's a thing that may happen. Again, I think that's equally possible on the right. The problem is you just don't see it. You just don't see right-wingers going off and doing this stuff. You see the FBI trying to trick right-wingers into going and doing it. You see the media identifying people who have communist and environmental manifestos. You see the media identifying them as right-wing. But we don't see like a lot of right-wing military veterans going out and like taking over small towns or executing governors or anything like that. We really don't see that. We do see that on the left. For instance, Dyer, of all of the, in the last 10 years, of all of the shootings on military bases, were they, constitutional conservatives, or were they, I don't know, liberal Islamic adherents?
All of them would be either liberals or people who are conservatives, in the sense that they were, Islamic conservatives.
Yeah. But you don't see a lot of like, actual patriots,
right?
Doing that. And by not a lot, I mean like none. We do see kind of an issue with the overlap of military training and leftism. For instance, we saw during the Governor Whitmer attempted FBI kidnapping of Governor Whitmer. One of the leaders of that was a military veteran who attached himself to the FBI and then attempted to kidnap the. I don't know why we say like, oh well, they were like pretending. Like, I mean, for all we know, the FBI would have gone through with it had they not been caught. Like, I don't know. But yeah, I think we see some issues with that, and the right conservative patriot ones kind of tend to stay quiet, which I guess is a good thing.
I always assumed that the idea of saying we don't just automatically back the blue applies to military too, because we're just another government agent in uniform, just with a different mission, different weapon set, right? Different skill set.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily as important one way or the other, because you guys don't operate domestically. However, this guy apparently does. The one that tried to kidnap Whitmer apparently does. And that's what I mean by we need to become more acclimatized to it, because normally we wouldn't have to be used to it as civilians, because we wouldn't normally be seeing military members and in doing things in our communities, because they're not supposed to be acting domestically, though I think we might have to become acclimatized to that happening.
If ever you think that we're going to get to a point of revolution, the ones you'll be fighting against will be the ones that are wearing the uniform still. There will always be a military. The people in the military now the ones that joined when they were joining with the impression that they were fighting for our constitutional rights, those people might not be in it anymore, but they'll be replaced by the people who are loyalists.
Yes, and they will wear the uniform like a puppet, for sure. Alrighty, well, let's move on before Dyer gets indicted.
Too late.
What's that?
I said too late.
Yeah. So our next discussion is about a gun bill that is working its way through Congress right now. And I've pulled up the text here, and I'm actually going to skip to the end because I want to get us the punchline, and we'll go back to the front of it so we know what that punchline means. So I jumped down. So this is, let me go back up here. So this is H.R. 1808, the assault weapons ban of 2021. Even though it's 2022, apparently it's been bouncing around for long enough that it still has a 2021 title on it. The latest action on this, according to Congress.gov, is that the House on 7/20/2022 has ordered to be reported, and basically it's out of committee and it's getting passed back to the House now. So what does this thing say? So if I jump down here to the end in Section 3, where the meat of it is, this bill says, Section 3, restrictions on assault weapons and large capacity ammunition feeding devices. A, in general, Section 922 of Title 18 United States Code is amended by inserting after subsection U the following. It shall be unlawful for a person to sell, manufacture, transfer, or possess in or affecting interstate or foreign commerce a semi-automatic assault weapon. It shall be unlawful to possess a semi-automatic assault weapon. Now, what is a semi-automatic assault weapon, you might be asking yourself?
Asking myself that, actually.
That's why I did this in reverse. We're gonna jump back to the beginning of the bill, where it gives us the definition of a semi-automatic assault weapon. Alrighty, so in definitions, we have, let's see here. Where do I want to start this at? Let's see here. So under Section 2 definitions, the term semi-automatic assault weapon means any of the following. So what did we just read? We jumped down several sections to get to the meat of it, which is that semi-automatic assault weapons will be illegal to possess. What is a semi-automatic assault weapon? A semi-automatic assault weapon means any of the following, regardless of country of manufacture or caliber of ammunition accepted. Things that are assault weapons are a semi-automatic rifle that has a magazine that is not a fixed magazine, which my AR has, does have one of the following: a pistol grip. Yeah, mine's got that. A forward grip. Yeah, mine's got that too. A folding, telescoping, or detachable stock, or is otherwise foldable or adjustable in a manner that my AR does, operates to reduce the length or any other dimension, or otherwise enhances the concealability of the weapon. I don't know that moving the stock 6 inches on my 20-inch AR is going to make it more concealable, but it's not an AR in my pocket. I'm just happy to see you. So I'm 3 for 3 already. Unfortunately, I'm not 3 for 4 with the grenade launcher. I'm very sad about that. Barrel shroud, I got that. And a threaded barrel, I also have that. So I am 5 for 6 on having one of the following on my AR. Let's see here. By the way, Dyer, this section goes on for a very long time, but you'll get the point here in a minute. So that is a semi-automatic assault weapon, Section A. Section B, a semi-automatic rifle is also considered a semi-automatic assault weapon if it has a fixed magazine with the capacity to accept 10 rounds, to accept more than 10 rounds, except for an attached tubular device designed to accept and capable of operating with only a .22 caliber rimfire ammunition. C, things that are also semi-automatic assault weapons are any part, combination of parts, components, devices, attachments, or accessories that is designed or functions to accelerate the rate of fire of a semi-automatic firearm, but not convert it to a semi-automatic firearm into a machine gun.
Bump stocks.
Yeah, so bump stocks, but also my pistol has a non-stock trigger on it, and it changed the initial fire strength, or the trigger pull strength, from 5 pounds to 2.5 pounds. So that actually allows me to fire, and it has a shorter reset area, so it actually allows me to shoot it faster. And that's how that trigger was marketed, is it allows you to shoot it faster with more accuracy because you don't have to pull it quite so hard. So is my trigger now this is all completely irrelevant because this bill basically makes all guns considered to be semi-automatic assault weapons. So like all of the guns I have are considered semi-automatic assault weapons under this. So like it doesn't really matter if I have a modified trigger or not because the entire gun's illegal. Right. But it begs the question, right? So let's see here. So section D of, again, we're still in the definition of things that are semi-automatic assault weapons. Section D is a semi-automatic pistol that has a magazine that is not a fixed magazine. Yep, mine has that. Does have one of the following: a threaded barrel. I don't have that. A second pistol grip. I don't have that. A barrel shroud. I don't have that. I didn't know you could get these on a pistol. I want that.
Yeah, it's unnecessary.
This is like my next build guide. Christ. The capacity to accept detachable magazine at some location outside of the pistol grip. A semi-automatic version of an automatic firearm. Oh, so that would be like Uzis and AKs. An Uzi in particular. So like, you can get an Uzi that's semi-auto, but because it's a semi-auto version of an automatic Uzi, then that would be just completely illegal, I guess. They don't want to have any fun. A manufactured weight of 50 ounces or more when unloaded. I've never weighed my gun, but I have a hefty boy, so it might be that much. A stabilizing brace, actually I know for a fact that my 22 pistol, because it's a competition pistol, so it's just like 8 pounds of stainless steel, and it doesn't move an inch when you fire it. I know that weighs more than 50 ounces. A stabilizing brace or similar component. Let's see here. So section E of things that are still semi-automatic assault weapons.
Jeez Louise.
I'm gonna go through the whole alphabet here. A pistol with a fixed magazine that has the capacity to accept 10 or more rounds. Let's see here, section F. A semi-automatic shotgun that has the capacity to utilize a magazine that is not a fixed magazine and does have one of the following: a folding telescopic or detachable stock, a pistol grip or bird's head grip, a fixed magazine with the capacity to accept 5 or more rounds, the ability to accept a detachable magazine, a forward grip. Wait, so you can't grab it on the
4 rounds in a magazine is a semi-automatic assault rifle, I
guess. A forward grip, so like you can't like grab it. You can't have something where you can grab it by the barrel, so you can like clear a room or something. Christ. Or no, is it talking about like a vertical grip? I don't know. Grenade launcher. Grip. They're really upset about these grenade launchers. Do you know why they're upset about the grenade launchers?
They're currently legal as flare launchers.
Yeah, so you can actually get, there's a weird carve out in the National Firearms Act where you can actually get a grenade launcher attachment for your AR-15. It's only allowed to, it can only fire one at a time before you have to like manually reload it. And yes, it is meant for technically flares, but you can get other things to put in it. And so you can actually get a grenade launcher for your AR-15 that attaches under the barrel, and I would very much like one. Again, this is my next build guide. Thank you very much, Congress, for finding the most fun gun parts. I'm gonna make sure I want to make a. If I was like a gun YouTuber, one of the gun YouTubers, please do this just to like so I can vicariously live through you. Like go through each section and build a gun specifically for that section based off the recommendations by Congress. I would love to see that.
Yes, and then send them to me for free.
Yes, a shotgun with a revolving cylinder. So there was actually this shotgun that came out, I think 2 years ago, that had this it was this gorgeous shotgun, and it had a 3 chamber like rotating section, and so it had 12 shots in each section. So you just go boom, 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 and you like rotate the cylinder, and then you got 12 more shots, and it was really cool. I definitely want one because it looked very futuristic. It had a lot of nice like design to it. I wish I could remember what the name was, but I do not remember. Let's see here. So Section H of things that are semi-automatic assault weapons. Section H. All of the following rifles, copies, duplicates, variants, or assorted families with the capability of such weapon thereof. All AK types. Just all of them. You guys can read through this list here. Some of these they're not really ones that are well known, so I'm just going to skip through. All AR types. The AR-10, AR-15. How about an AR-10? Yeah, so basically it just lists like all of the like branded ARs. Now I have an FN-15, which is FN's competition AR, and I love it. It's beautiful. It's perfect. I would marry it if I could. It is not on this list. However, it is in like the family of the things that were listed, so I think it counts. The Smith & Wesson MP15 is my next AR purchase that I would like to make, and that is because the Smith & Wesson MP15 is what Kyle Rittenhouse used to not die when a pedophile was trying to chase him down and kill him, or other things to him. So interesting that made the list. Let's see here. So again, all of the guns that you see listed here are all of the following that are specifically considered semi-automatic assault weapons. And why is that important? Because of the section that we read earlier that says it shall be unlawful for a person to possess a semi-automatic assault weapon. So here's the specific list that, not limited to. We'll just slowly go through. Berettas. High points. I mean, I'm in favor of high points being like outlawed. Like, I'm okay with that actually. So we can just leave that one on there.
All this is unconstitutional. Not a bit of this is constitutional.
I don't know what Thompson did, but Thompson Firearms is like, they really pissed off.
Do they even make that many guns nowadays?
I don't know. So actually what we found out before the show is that at least some of these are historical rifles or firearms that were made by manufacturers that were either absorbed or are now defunct. So one of them that we found that was very interesting was called the Fox gun. And apparently there used to be a company called Fox Guns, and their tagline was the finest gun in the world, the fox always gets his game. And their shotgun was the Fox gun that you were not supposed to use to shoot foxes. It was that you were the fox, not that you were shooting at foxes. You freak Dyer.
Right. Well, missed opportunity.
Let's see here. So also, so that was all the rifles. So also, things that are assault weapons, Section I, all of the following pistols, copies, duplicates, variants, or altered facsimiles with the capability of such a weapon thereof. And we have all the AK types. We have all AR pistols. All of these pistols. SIG probably should be banned because it drop fires. I wonder if did we pass Smith & Wesson? I want to see if my pistol's on here. I want to make sure I'm as against in contempt of Congress as possible. Let's see here. J, all of the things that are also semi-automatic assault weapons which you're not allowed to possess are J, all of the following shotguns. Shotguns, duplicates, copyates, variants thereof, and of all of these guys. All belt-fed semi-automatic firearms, which they're already banned. L, any combination of parts which a firearm described in subparagraphs A through K can be assembled. So you are not allowed to, this would be where getting an 80% lower, which if you know what that is, basically just a unusable part of an AR-15. Basically, you couldn't even buy parts for guns at all anymore.
This is to remove the ability to make guns at home. So what about the all the people who use 3D printers to create guns.
I think that's in here somewhere, but it's a long bill, mostly because it's just like a bunch of lists of things that you're not allowed to do. Let's see here. So the frame or receiver of a rifle shotgun described in subparagraph A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. I'm learning my Elemento piece. The term large capacity ammunition feed. Okay, so that's moving on to describe ammunition. But we have like all of this is what a assault weapon is. All of this. I'm still scrolling. Okay, there we go. So all of that. That is a lot. So yeah, we did have a section that I actually got rid of, but there was a lot of hubbubaloo about a very small bill about gay marriage and contraception that some people in the commentary sphere got very excited about this week. And meanwhile, this is in Congress right now. You know, you can have all your feelings in the world that you want about different aspects, but I think that we need to focus on like the really big ones. Like, you know, I think being able to like ban gay marriage is like a kind of a luxury position if they're going to just get rid of all guns and immediately criminalize hundreds of millions of Americans potentially. I think it's somewhere up around 100 million Americans that own firearms, and the number of firearms they own is in like the 500 million. This bill is completely untenable. There's a bunch of discussion in here about grandfather laws and all that sort of stuff, and you know, this is like the apocalypse written in Congress right now. I don't see that this is. I don't know. I don't know if this is going to go through or not. I don't think it will, but I don't know. It's concerning that's even been written. I think that it's. I think that some things are unconstitutional even to consider. So like I don't know that Congress has the right to consider an infringement of the Second Amendment, which actually is interesting because the title of the bill, if we zoom all the way up to the top. Let's see here. So HR 1808. To regulate assault weapons to ensure the right to keep and bear arms is not unlimited and for other purposes. No, literally the Constitution says the right to keep and bear arms is unlimited and that unlimitation shall not be infringed upon. What is uninfringed? Like, it means that the fringes, it means that even the edge cases are not available for Congress to legislate on. It shall not be infringed even at the fringes. So, yes, it is unlimited. There are
being a member of the early Congress writing this and thinking to yourselves, there's no way they could misunderstand this, right? We're being so obvious. Cannot be infringed. Can't even be touched. They'll understand, right?
Yeah. But no, I think it should be. I think it is via the Constitution. I think it's unlawful for Congress to even consider unconstitutional laws. Like I don't know. Again, I've brought this up several times in the last few months that like there's clearly some issues with the Constitution. The main one being that the people have to be injured by Congress before the Supreme Court can step in, which is ridiculous. The burden that it won't hurt us should be on Congress. The burden that we've been hurt shouldn't be on us. That's ridiculous. And so I think it's unlawful, and it should be considered unlawful for Congress to even consider something that's clearly unconstitutional. I mean, you don't even have to work. Like, this would be the easiest thing for the Supreme Court to look at is like, oh, well, they said the purpose of the bill is to infringe the right to keep and bear arms. And the Constitution says that the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So, like, it's in the name, right there. And so, like, they shouldn't be allowed to do this, but they are. So, call your congressman. You can worry about if they voted for a bill that was not about gay marriage, or you can be worried about this. You certainly can be worried about both things, but to the extent that Dire Wolf Media is going to spend our time talking about a bill, I think it was much more valuable to read through that for you. And the left for the longest time has said, well, assault weapons, and the right response has always been, well, what is an assault weapon? And the left's response to that was, 80 pages of what an assault weapon is. So maybe that was a mistake to ask them. But yeah, we thought it was much more important to go through this than to read through other bills that were not quite as important. This will affect you much more than whether or not somebody else gets married.
Yeah, it affects whether or not we really still have a country or not. I think that this could be a catalyst for a lot of terrible things. I don't think, how many people do you think who are currently gun owners are going to be accepting of this? They're going to become criminals overnight.
Well, and Congress and what army will enforce this? I mean, you're going to immediately have what we already have is several counties with sheriffs that said we're a 2A sanctuary.
Almost entire state worth of counties.
Well, no, some states entirely. I know Ohio right now is passing a law, or has a law in the books, or in process right now, trying to codify that at the state level. But you had a lot of counties, especially Virginia comes to mind, but all over the country where they've said, this is a 2A sanctuary, and we will not enforce either at the state or the federal level or allow to be enforced any kind of infringement on Second Amendment.
That's going to create a situation where we have states that are openly in defiance of federal law, and we're going to have other states who are going to be saying, making lawsuits against those states saying, hey, all our gun crime in our state, it's because of you guys, obviously, not because, gun laws don't actually stop gun crime. We're going to blame you. So there's going to be grievances in the courts and attempts to enforce states to enact these laws that they are opposed to, and that is going to lead to the states having to choose, are we going to bow to the federal government, or would our people rather have us secede from it?
Yep.
And it could be the dividing line that people decide on.
In the meantime, what you can do is, I would say, one is, to the extent that you're involved in your local politics, or just give them a call your sheriff's office, see what their position on 2A sanctuary status, 2A sanctuary status is. Would they be willing to enforce a gun law that they thought was unconstitutional? What might they do to enforce that, and see from there. Talk to your city council, maybe run for office, maybe run for sheriff. What's funny about sheriff is you don't actually have to have any law enforcement experience to be sheriff. Most people don't know that. But it's a purely political position. Certainly, I think better sheriffs do have law enforcement experience and are able to go out and do stuff, as we saw in Uvalde. But if you're a former military or just like roughing people up, you could be sheriff. Dyer, that might be a fun thing for you to do in your retirement.
It's not a bad idea.
But and then I think the second thing that you can do is go to congress.gov, search for HR 1808, go to section 2-36-A, and just start reading the A through K and plan your next build. That's what I'm going to do.
Yep. I kind of want to get the full collection, kind of the
Infinity Stones of semi-automatic assault weapons.
Exactly. Also, it's kind of like, it's a very completionist thing to do, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I want to have all the illegal weapons.
Exactly. Alrighty. Well, I just have to go weigh my guns now, see if they're 50 ounces.
That weight limit seems extremely arbitrary and not based on anything.
They should have made it weigh as much as 20 boxes. Remember that?
20 boxes? How much is a box?
No, do you remember that? Well, one of the congresswomen, I don't think she's in there anymore, but she said like a couple of years ago, she's like, AR-15s, like they're really heavy. They weigh as much as 20 boxes.
No, still my same question. Like, what's your reference box?
Are you telling me that you don't know the standard measurement of a box tire? Come on.
Apparently not. Like, do you? Tell me in any other measurement.
I think Congress should have to do measurements in like weird units. That'd be funny. Alrighty. Well, you got anything else for us today, Dyer? Oh, we have the penis story. I almost forgot about the penis story.
Is it really a story or more of just like a public awareness?
Oh, you don't have the article from the Coffee or Die?
Oh, no. Sorry.
Oh,
you want to do this another day?
Well, I can look it up real quick. Coffee or Die, Air Force penises. This would be a good time to remind you that you should use a VPN.
Yes. Come on, this is the first time you've looked up Air Force penises. Let's be honest.
I mean, not with the word coffee in front of it. Surprisingly, that did not come up. So let me see here. Okay, I guess we're gonna have to read the Vice one. I thought I sent that to you, didn't I? What did I send that to you on?
Probably Signal.
I probably did. Let me see if I can pull that back up real quick. Because it was, yeah, there it is. Theirs was, by the way, censorship alert. There is videos of Air Force generated penises on here. So, you guys don't want to see this. This is the end of the show, really.
Yeah, send the kids to bed.
Yeah, okay, so in a penis video, Air Force goes hard on member education. The world is full of many mysteries and great questions. Are we alone in the universe? Is Bigfoot real? Why did the Air Force recently upload a penis video to a government-run website? Did that last one get you? It got us too. Let's talk about it. The Defense Visual Information Distribution Service, or DVIDS, is the Pentagon's distribution hub for providing photos, videos of the military, and now, thanks to the Air Force, penises. I need to FOIA that. Don't cancel your Pornhub subscription just yet. It's not what you think. The video as a whole feels like two science teachers trying to teach you about your penis without saying something that will get them sued or laughed at. The two presenters, who suspiciously resemble old Captain America and Lex Luthor, proceed to talk about dicks like they're reading the 5 o'clock news. It's just awkward. Does that Vice article actually have the video connected to it?
No, it doesn't.
Oh, I can't find this video. Like, can you find this video?
Couldn't. I tried.
Oh.
I mean, I could look it up at work, if that's what you're asking.
Are you going to go on your work computer and type in the word penis?
No. I'm actually not going to do that again.
Oh, okay. Well, the video that opens to old Cap informing us straight away that the male reproductive system is outside the body, while this gentleman has clearly never been to Fort Drum in the winter. I'm sure that's funny for Dyer. That information shouldn't come as a shock to anyone. Old Cap passes the torch to Lex Luthor, who wastes no time getting a 3D penis on screen. At 20 seconds in, this is a blistering pace by current industry standards. I doubt even Jeffrey Toobin in a Zoom call could match that standard. Getting your penis out in 20 seconds or less.
Fort Drum is cold, so it shrinks into your body.
Yes. And as far as the 3D renderings go, as far as 3D renderings of penises go, Coffee or Die says this is quality. This is the Avatar of penis instructional videos. In other words, it's exactly the kind of high-quality penis animation one might expect from the U.S. Air Force. If the Army had produced this, they probably would have just carved some penis drawings from the inside of porta-shitters in California's National Training Center, or had some E4 draw them in Microsoft Paint. Dyer doesn't know anything about drawing things in Microsoft Paint. Despite sounding suspiciously like a male enhancement ad, this video is a military production, and one must wonder why these gentlemen were asked to do this. I imagine a member of the Air Force Security Forces tasered his testicles or broke them, spurring the dissemination of penis educational videos service-wide.
I'll be honest with you, this doesn't surprise me at all.
Back to the penis video, directed by James Cameron. Lex uses his mad scientist skills to hit us with an X-ray view of the paternity pole, and then breaks down the function Barney style. No stone is left unturned as we explore the male sex organ, the parts of which sound suspiciously like Roman generals or spells from Harry Potter: testicles, epidermis, and seminal vessels. They may have been making this up. What's the space between your scrotum and anus called? The Dumbledore? In less than 1 minute, there's a fully erect penis smashing barriers and running circles around the great Johnny Sins. The lap howitzer, there we go. The lap howitzer, there you go, that's a new one, is oriented and ready to fire as Lex explains the loading and firing process of the male member. At 1 minute and 20 seconds, which I will continue to tell my wife is perfectly average, an incredibly brief snowstorm of little squiggly aliens flashes on screen in simulation of the ejaculation process. After completion, Lex Luthor treats those of us carrying around this particular piece of gear to a detailed animation of our greatest fear as it is bisected the load-bearing beam. Let's see here. We are then shown a brief explanation of how our sails go full mast. That is why the why is our own business. We're not here to kink shame. Before the video fades to black, despite the high quality and apparent production value, this video raises more questions than answers. Why did the Air Force release a video on the male penis that felt a lot like a Nissan Optima ad? Who was this for? Was there a young airman out there who genuinely asked, what is a penis? It's actually more possible than you think. And then this had to happen? Why was the ejaculation process in this video a cloud? Is that an Air Force thing? Airmen ejaculate clouds?
What?
The Army reflective PT belts, the Navy saltwater, and the Marines just different shades of crayons. And lastly, will more anatomy videos from the Air Force be coming soon? If so, we hope they give us a little more warning. Wear your eye pro, folks. You'll shoot your eye out. I know because I watched this. So, Dyer, do you have any comment on that? Any confirm or deny clouds?
I've seen weirder... No clouds. I've seen weirder videos produced by... Yeah, I'm the one that's broken for sure. There's clouds of sperm. I mean, after getting irradiated and after all the vaccinations given me, I guess.
Yeah, maybe they're trying to preempt it with all the vaccinations. They're like, no, this is normal.
Or maybe that's what the vaccinations caused. Now our sperm is aerosolized. They meant to reduce the population. Now they've made us spread virally.
All right. Well, do you have any other comments on that, or
nothing else useful? No.
Nothing useful. Do you you gonna go learn your instructional video? And that's pretty quick, man. You get through the whole how a penis works in like 2 minutes or less. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to wait for the follow-up how the vagina works.
Hey, it's not science fiction, Dyer. It's just what you do every day, right?
Yeah, someone got paid. Someone got paid a military salary. Multiple people, like a colonel in fact, was paid to produce this video.
Do you think somebody got like bullets and like good reviews for this? Yes. Like, do you think somebody has an EPR line that's like, I made a penis video?
They probably did not call it that. Yes. Guaranteed this was an accomplishment listed on someone's EPR.
Can you like figure out who did this?
I can. I think giving their name on the stream would probably be a no, but...
no, I just thought for your own personal enjoyment.
Okay. So you can call them and get some tips.
And that is the show today, guys. Thank you.
You didn't deny it. Anyways, we'll see you guys next Saturday. It's been fun, guys. Thank you very much.
Yep. I hope you guys enjoyed the CDC call. It was fun. All right. Shviz signing off.